Corey,
Yeah, what's up?
is it now?
Oh, dude, Jesus Christ. That's already starting off with like the worst possible question that like any of those fucking things could ask.
I know, right? I don't even, half the time I'm watching, I'm like, I don't even know, especially if Bernard's on the screen, I'm like, I don't even know when we are right now. He could be having a dream, this could be present day, it could be something that happened way back. I was like, I don't even know where I am anymore half the time.
Yeah, dude, after I watched this episode, I was like, I have now like completely lost any like remote tracking I had on the show. Like, I was like, okay, now I'm just here for the story. Like, the things I know will be explained to me, you know, that the show wants me to know. I was like, but no longer can I keep up with the multitude of timelines. And now that, I don't know, what do we call these humanoid things are like pausing time and moving time at the same time because you don't know if they're in a dream sequence or like if they're just stuck. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
no,
God damn it.
What you're talking about screwed me up even more. I think the line he says is like,
I'm not here with you, am I?
And I'm like, and where are we? Like, what's happening? Like, you're not there, so are you having? What are we watching? I didn't even know what's going on anymore.
Yeah, well, you could tell he was like referencing like quote unquote memories or dreams of that area. Like, I think it was one of those things where like, you know how like you see someone staring off into space and you're like, man, I wonder what they're thinking about. Like, that's pretty much what it was, except for like we were watching the dream sequence happen in his head.
Yeah, well, it really bothered me that the person he was there with, I was like, oh shit, is she not really there? I'm like, please be there because you were awesome. And I was so glad. And now I'm like, fuck, are you really there? For the whole scene with her, the whole like half of the episode with her. Anyways, let's get, we won't want to start halfway through this middle of this guy. Let's let everybody know who they found, where they are, and what's going on. So you have found the Two Dads Review podcast. We pretty much just turn a mic on and start talking. You guys just hop in and hang on. My name's Clay. The guy on the other side of the mic is...
I'm Corey.
We are just two dads who like TV and movies, and I scroll through and pick stuff for us to watch, and Corey drags himself through it, timeline and all.
Yeah, man. I just go through the motions.
Right. Well, hey, I need my color commentary, man. I need it. I'm good at going through the notes, and you're good at being like, wait a second, let's talk about this for 20 minutes. I'm like, okay. So you can find us always at twodadsreview.com if you want to check us out there. You can listen to all of our podcasts there at the website. That's our Audio Boom site. You can also find links to all of your favorite places to listen to podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Radio Public. I think there's another one up there, but I don't even know how it works. So it may be Deezer, maybe. I think I saw that link happen a couple weeks ago, and I was like, okay, because I think you have to pay for that to start out with. And I'm like, I don't know how to get into that. So, oh well.
Yeah, I don't even know anything you were just talking about.
That's it. I've got a good enough list. I don't need to know any more of them. You can also check us out at Two Dads Review at our YouTube channel. Same stuff there. Just has our title card, so you can listen to us on YouTube if you want to. Other than that, that's the major stuff about us. Before we start with episode 4 of Westworld, if you're listening to this the week of, you are probably still reeling from this is a time of year where it's what is it, May? It's the middle of May 2018. So it's they're all you're learning all of the shows that are being cut, all of your favorites, whether they make it or break it, man.
Chopping block season.
It is bad. And this year I would say is almost as bad as like I watch a shit ton of television, like more than a human should probably consume in a standard season.
I would agree with that.
I'm lucky that my wife goes to bed early, and I'm like, I don't want to go to bed till midnight, so I got 4 straight hours of like, let's see what I'm going to watch tonight. So there was a couple years, I guess it was probably like 2012. I don't know. It's whatever year that like Christian Slater had his last like TV show season that like every time he was touching a TV show, it was going to last a season, then die. Up until like Mr. Robot, which luckily they've only made him a partial character and not really there. Spoiler alert. So that's how you save it. Don't make Christian Slater really there, and then he's okay. Then your show's going to survive.
Yeah, just like keep him in the shadows.
Exactly. Yeah, make him just a premonition who's not really there. But there was like, it was maybe like 2012 that I swear to God, 50% of the TV that I started, like, oh, this is a new show for this season. This is a brand new show, and canceled, and didn't make it half a season, and canceled at the end of the year. Like, it was literally like half. I was like, holy shit, it's like a reckoning here.
Yeah, I feel like anything I ever get interested in like doesn't last more than like two seasons.
That's too bad.
And then I'm just like, this is why I don't watch TV.
Because I don't like being sad.
Yeah, I get invested and then I'm crippled with shame and sadness.
Well, I've taken a few notes, and let's go through your list of sadness, at least my list of sadness. This is not the complete list of shows that are canceled in the 2018 season. It's the ones that I either was following or was big news or watched. And, just want to let everybody know, keep you up to date if you haven't found out already. So, and Corey, stop me if you've watched any of these. Did you watch The Exorcist?
Yeah, I'm a little pissed about that one.
I am too. I like season 2, especially when they brought in the guy who plays Sulu on the Star Trek movies.
Yeah, like they just like finally got it ramped up. Like like it was like, okay, we get it. Like they're gonna be fighting demons and stuff but now like they could make it. I don't know. There was at the point where they could just do so many wonderful things with it, and then they're like, no, we can't do The Exorcist anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, because to be honest, season 1 was awesome because it paid homage to the original movie. It followed that plot. It was, you brought back the girl who was the possessed one in the movie was now the mother of the lady who was, it tied in nicely, but wasn't so heavy-handedly, talking about the movie, but it was kind of a reveal that she was who she was. So season 1 was awesome, and then season 2 had a whole different turn that was still I thought it was just as powerful as season 1.
Yeah, I mean, and The Exorcist is probably like 1 and B of like my favorite movies of all time. Mm-hmm. And like, I love the TV show, and it was cool because it was also kind of graphic. Like, it even though it was a Fox show, like it didn't hold back.
Kind of in the realm of like Hannibal.
Yeah, like where they you were kind of like, oh shit, man! Like we can do that on TV now.
right. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 10 o'clock. We can do whatever the fuck we want to. Let's blood and titties. Let's
go. You just
right.
don't see that. And like, I mean, I remember looking at somebody's lineup, dude, and like literally every show on it was like a cop procedural show. I think, and I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me, dude. Like the only cop procedural show that needed to be saved was Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and
that's on my list.
And that show was saved, so we're okay there.
So let's go ahead and go there. So Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I don't watch but know I should be, and I feel bad about that. It was canceled from Fox, and NBC picked it up. Is that correct? It was on Fox originally, right?
Yeah, and it was an awesome show. Like it's one of those shows like that's pretty much on par with like Parks and Rec and stuff like that, where you just fall in love with all the characters, and they're all perfectly situated for what they do in the show. And like, it's just, and when I saw that one on the chopping block, I was like, you'd be fucking kidding me. It's one of the more popular shows on TV.
Well, apparently it wasn't being watched by that many people, which is sad. I mean, people like me who are like, I need to get into that later, just not right now. It's probably what it was. And that's too bad because
you're one of those guys like hoping it makes to like 7 seasons. So you're just like, hey, when I need something to binge watch, like I got 7 seasons of something good.
Which I may still, because NBC may still be holding on for it. So they'll be fine.
Yeah.
So another show that's out the window is Lucifer. I don't know. Did you watch that show?
I watched. See, I'm probably one of the reasons the show's getting canceled because I watched like season 1, and then I think I watched all of season 2, and then I just kind of like trailed off.
Right. Yeah. Completely agree. Because they're on season 3. I have not. This has been one of my wife's and I's like we don't have a lot of I have like my list of shows, and she has like her list of like trash TV, and then somewhere in the middle some of our shows like we have to watch them together. This is one of those shows because it was just it never took itself too seriously, but it was serious enough, and it was one of those topics that I was like, season 1 I was like, I was like, is this shit gonna be watched in the Bible Belt? Because people in the Bible Belt are not gonna like this show.
No, I mean, well, that's what I was wanting. Like, I also thought about like The Exorcist too, man. I was like, how much backlash is this shit gonna get?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
very true. Anytime you bring religion in, certain sections of America are like the devil's there. Don't watch that show. It's got the devil in it. Like, yeah, that's half of America for you. I'm sorry if you're in the Bible Belt. and you listen to our podcast, I feel for you.
More power to you.
Right, more power to you. So another one that got canceled that almost was one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you came out with season 1 the same time this show came out with a season 1 as well, and you guys are like the same thing. So The Brave got canceled while SEAL Team got renewed. Different networks, but pretty much special. You have SEAL Team, which is special ops stuff, and you have this. The Brave was following another special ops type team as well. The only problem is that SEAL Team has David Boreanaz in it, so everybody who's like, oh, I'm sorry, Sealy Booth is being a military guy, so I can just pretend in my brain this is Sealy Booth, the prequel. I'm watching this fucking show just because I want to see more Sealy Booth, even though his name is not Sealy Booth. In my brain, his is Sealy Booth, and I'm watching this shit, and I love you, sir. Yeah,
and I loved you as Angel.
Right, I loved you as Angel, and I miss Joss Whedon shows on television, and goddamn, yeah, exactly. So, The Brave got canceled after first season. I watched both of them. I liked both of them equally for what they did. So yeah, sorry, there's the 2 new Spec Ops shows started up. One of them's gonna take the bullet. Sorry. The Expanse got canceled, which. Truthfully, that's one of the ones that I was watching for the first season, then I fell off the second season, was like, oh, it's on Amazon Prime, I'll just watch it then. And so now it's got canceled.
Yeah, and
it was a cool show.
I'm one of those people that have no idea what that show is because I don't have normal TV.
It was okay. It was good, but like I said, it's one of the ones that fell off my radar, so I kind of understand why it got canceled. Let's see. Designated Survivor got canceled. I'm a fan of Kiefer Sutherland, so I watch anything he's in. I liked him in 24. I followed him through all of 24, especially when I was back in Iraq. We had the discs, the DVD sets come in, and we just watched, just binge that shit back in the day.
I remember 2 of my fraternity brothers, man, as soon as the box set would come out, they would go have a gin night and watch that show, and that's all they would do.
24 straight hours.
Yeah, they
right?
just binge it. It's like, damn.
Yeah, so that one got shit canned out. That one is actually good. It's revving up. They even brought Michael J. Fox on for the last 6 episodes of the season had Michael J. Fox on it, and I was like, I love that guy. You can't help but love him, and the fact that he shows up and does some acting here and there, even being as far advanced in his illness as he is, he's still fantastic to watch on television. Yeah, man.
I think I watched his TV show where he was basically himself, and I was like, I just almost felt too bad. I was like, I can't do it. This is saddening. I know you're trying to be good about it and just kind of show everybody what's going on and stuff, but I was like, this is genuinely disheartening. I can't make it through an episode.
I can't take it. Yeah, so it's that one. It's an okay show to watch. It's not like it's gonna. It has some. If you like that kind of, if you like House of Cards, if you like the whole watching how the government works according to Hollywood, it's a good show to watch. But yeah, it made it 2 seasons. It's an intriguing 2 seasons. If they don't get a chance, I just watched the second to last episode today, and they don't say series finale, so they definitely didn't know they were getting canceled. So it's probably going to cliffhang the shit out of you. Like last season when they shot him, so you're like, oh, he may be dead, but not really. It's just a cliffhanger type thing. So yeah. I'm sure it will not be a nice wrap up. The same probably for Lucifer as well. It wasn't, it's not going to be a nice wrap up. People who didn't know that this was happening.
Yeah, no, it'll just be one of those where it's done, and you just have to be
okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
watching TV fine, is... I guess that's what I'm going to get. There should be a clause that any show canceled has to have a wrap up episode.
Agreed. You should not. You should film your series. You should film your season finale, but you should also film an episode 24. A number 24 of that. Every last episode of your season should have a separate episode you filmed that you never release unless you get canceled, and then you give everybody that 25th episode that's nice and wraps everything up, so I can sleep at night.
Yep.
Quantico is canceled. this show is on its third season right now. I've watched it, just started its third season like 4 weeks ago. So they're like, and it's I actually think they knew it was canceled before they started filming it, which is why they're only getting like 13 episodes this season. It's not a normal 24 episode run, which is fine because I can't hardly stand 24 episode shows anymore unless it's procedural. I can't do it because it's like you don't have enough story to tell me.
Not enough story. What do you mean not enough story?
I believe that TV viewing has changed so much in the past decade that unless it's a police procedural, unless the show has a designated monster of the week, that 24 episodes, 22 episodes is too long. You can tell me an engrossing story for 10 to 15 episodes. You don't have to worry about wrapping it up every hour. You just keep telling me that whole 15 episode story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
Like I don't need 24 episodes. I will come back and watch your show again. Like just tell me a whole story. I'll watch it every week and we'll be good to go. Don't, unless it's really to this day, the only shows that I have left that are those long of shows are mostly procedural shows. The Americans is done finally. That's an AMC one. That's about 80s Russian sleeper cell families that like the husband and wife are Russian agents who are, they're not sleeper cells. They are active agents from when they came over to America. They gained citizenship.
Gotcha. Okay.
When they came over, so they've had 2 children. Those children are raised in America. The daughter has been turned by the mother because she found out that they were spies, and instead of like killing her, they were like, okay, well, you can be a spy with us. And so this one, I think it's on like season 4 or 5. It's a nice slow burn, very graphic at times because this is like 80s style. Like this is just this is survival type fighting. So anytime the husband or wife, and the wife is played by Felicity, I think is what she used to be. And what's her name?
God damn it. Put me on the spot. I don't know.
Carrie Russell.
Carrie Russell would have never got it.
This is of course is AMC like at a 10 or 11 o'clock time slot. So there's some butt in this show, like a lot of butt, her butt, and full rear nudity. And I'm like, okay. I was like, she's looking good for being it. So they've done 6 seasons. They're on season 6 right now, and it's wrapping up as we speak. So it's a great run. Wherever it goes to live on Netflix or Hulu or wherever or Amazon, if you get a chance to binge it, you want a nice slow burn like Russian spy, watching them do all their 80s type spy stuff when there was no internet type thing is great. It's fun to watch because you're like, and they do a really good job of like keeping everything is all their old cars, all the way they dress. I mean, the big ass glasses, the shoulder pads. I mean, everything is there. It's just every bit of the worst of the 80s, this show. And it's a really great show. So if you get a chance, wherever it lands, post new episode, wherever it just lands, take a gander at it. Sad for you and I, Ash vs. Evil Dead is over.
Yeah, that one sucks. And then it also sucks too because Bruce Campbell is like completely retiring Ash. Like he's not doing him anymore at all.
Well, I hope I liked how they introduced his daughter this last season. And I'm hoping that she can pick up. Was this Bruce Campbell kind of like handing it over?
No, like they canceled the show and everything.
I know, but I mean, like Bruce, like if they ever were to reboot it with her, they could bring in the daughter character and he could be gone.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's such a good show though. Like if you have not watched Ash vs. Evil Dead, you have done yourself a disservice. Because that whole crew it's all the old guy. Like it's everybody who loved the show, grew up with the show, worked on the movie. Everybody was there. Practical effects. Oh, it's just so good.
Yeah, it's a fantastic TV show. It's wonderful.
So another one that I read that I know you and I both watched because you made me watch it and I loved it. Blood Drive did not get renewed, and this was like from the end of last summer.
I was so pissed about that one, man.
Another one was that sci-fi.
Yeah, dude, like that. Yeah, that show was
amazing.
Like I don't understand. And again,
go ahead, describe the plot. Because it won't make sense if I say it. Describe the plot of Blood Drive.
Okay, so basically, it's like some kind of post-apocalyptic time. But anywho, like cars drive on blood and there's this like secret race and the whole people that like control the world are really the ones that fund this secret blood drive, and there's a whole thing that goes on with it, but I can't do it justice. Like, it's just one of those shows you have to just sit down and watch and like
just go with it.
Yeah, and just go along with the ride, because like you'll love the characters, you'll love the absurdities that are in the show. Like, it's fantastic.
Right. It's right, and it's funny that I mentioned it right after Ash vs. Evil Dead, because it's kind of it's filmed, and the gore fest is kind of in the same realm as your Ash vs. Evil Dead, as your Quentin Tarantino style movies. You know, all the ones that are just over the top. Maybe some Resident Evil type stuff. There's all like the gore factor is turned up to 11 in Blood Drive.
Oh yeah, there's like plenty of scenes where like something happens and then like the person turns around and they're just like red. You know, you're like, there's not even that amount of blood, but Jesus Christ, like you're just red. You're just red.
Or when you turn around and they're feeding that person to the car because they need the blood.
Yeah, it's great.
Let's see, a couple others. So this is Game of Thrones is over. The next season we get, which we're not going to get until 2019, will be the final season of Game of Thrones. So it's been officially canceled by HBO, knowing this is the last season we're coming into. So that's we know that one already. Netflix canceled House of Cards, so the season that's coming out soon is the last season. The one they cut Kevin Spacey from, and it's all the First Lady, whatever her name is. Wow, we're doing good with names today. That's really sure. She was on Splash, and she was Robin Wright. She's in Princess Bride, man. Come on. That's who it is. How do I not know her name off the top of my head? Because I'm not good at actors' names, that's why. But the last season, they've cut Kevin Spacey completely after his whole sexual advances towards kids.
Yeah, it's weird pedophilia
with the guy from Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Kevin Spacey. I'm sorry that you have some great movies out there. It's the new Kevin Bacon in real life. See, that's who you should hate and not watch his movies. Not because of something he played on TV, but because of the person he is behind the camera.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, I don't watch any of his shit anyways. So
I don't watch your shit anyways, and now I have a definite reason for not watching your shit.
But I mean, he was one of those actors that like had a bunch of great movies, and then he kind of just faded away and would like
living on royalties from those movies.
Yeah, and like every so often would like appear in something, and you'd be like, "Oh shit, it's Kevin Spacey!" Damn, and then nothing.
Then House of Cards hit, and House of Cards, in and of itself, is a fantastic show. It was great. It's another one kind of like the whole Designated Survivor. It's the whole how the government works behind the scenes, whether in Hollywood style type government workings in DC, things like that. It's really intriguing. It was a great run. If you can watch it and not think about the actor behind it, it's really a great show. The other actors who were in it should not be shat upon because of the dirtbag they're working with. We've all worked with dirtbags before, so it's a great show, but it's done after. There's no recovering from that when your main star is like that comes out. You're like, well, okay, I guess we're fucking done.
Yeah, everybody go ahead and find something else to do.
Raise your WWE glass to them of what you're drinking out of right now.
Yeah. We got John Cena.
Little John Cena. Do you know who that is?
Daniel Bryan.
That's right. Oh, you had to read the late and The Rock.
The Rock.
You should have that glass out for our 1-year anniversary show, which will be the week that we watch Skyscraper. So we're watching a Rock movie on our anniversary week.
Oh, that's sexy.
I'm so excited. That's a few weeks down the road, though. Okay, to round out the list, The Leftovers, which was a pay channel show. I don't know if it was HBO. HBO. The great show. I think it had 3 seasons. I still don't even know what I watched. I'm not really sure if I understood by the end of it what was actually happening. So I was like, okay.
That was one of those shows that came on like after True Blood, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like, I thought it was going to be like the cool filler show. And I watched maybe like 2 episodes and I was like, I can't do this.
The premise is awesome.
I just didn't. After watching True Blood, I was expecting Westworld is on equal par with Game of Thrones. I'm not saying you like the show as much, but there is a significant amount of effort going into this show, and it feels like, okay, this is another heavyweight. Like this show to me, I just watched and I was like, You should have been played like before True Blood died off, because you're just not ready to like fill those shoes yet.
Right. If you haven't, you're right. And if you haven't watched Leftover, the premise of it is suddenly, without any warning or anything, 2% of the entire population of the world disappears. Just there and then not there. Just you're eating breakfast
like
and
Thanos
then,
with like a bad snap.
Yeah, he kind of snapped, not all the way snapped, not a 50 snap, like a 2%.
Like he was learning how to snap.
Right,
this is his practice snap.
Right, and so it's dealing with that fallout. It shows the many types of ways that humans in general deal with a loss that is unexplainable. You have the religious aspect, you have the science aspect, you have the standard aspect of like, just discovery, trying to deal with it. One of the greatest, I believe, opening credits of a lot of shows. Like it's especially, I think season 2 is when they started it with like this like kind of country-ish kind of feel to it. I wasn't sure if it was in season 1, but I know season 2 had it. And it was like a country-ish feel, and with all the pictures of people going by, and like half of them were edited out with like stars, like green screened out, and just the way it went with that, just it was kind of emotional watching the opening credits and listening to the lyrics of the song. So it's a great show. It had run its course. They got the chance to tell their story, and they finished it out. That ended last summer as well, but it's still considered the 17-18 season.
Gotcha.
The Mick is canceled.
Unfortunately, like I can see it though, man. Like
we both
the first
you turned
season,
me on to it.
Yeah, the first season was fantastic. The second season is like great, but it's kind of like, okay, one of them's like going off to college and then suddenly doesn't want to. Then you got like a little kid who's still there, and then it's like, how long are you going to carry this out? Like, how long can you keep this stick going? And I feel like they could have kept it going for quite some time, but when they tried to like midway through like have a real breakup in the show on season 2, when that's arguably probably one of the funniest characters on the screen, and then like there's like so much backlash that he's just like, it's almost like the audience went, man, fuck you guys.
Right.
like why are you being such dicks just messing with it? Like, you had a good formula, you knew it, everybody knew it, and then you were just like, hey man, we're gonna throw this crazy ass curveball in here for no real apparent reason. Yeah,
like she said it, like I don't even think I recognized her saying they had broke up when I first watched that episode until you told me about it, and I was like, what do you mean Jimmy's gone? Like, he's the best part of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, yeah, dude, I think that pissed a lot of people off.
Well, and he was a writer, so I'm sure he was like, I don't want to do double duty. Like, I'm tired of writing and having to act in this shit. Like, I'm tired. Like, I'm sure the actor himself was tired, but it's like, sorry, bro, you're really fucking good at what you do.
Yeah, man, you are Jimmy now.
Right, and I think he gave us some of his best stuff after he came back.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, yeah, some of his episodes were like fantastic.
Right.
But Fox went bonkers this year, man.
Well, true. And on the exact opposite of that, of them cutting a character out that everybody loved, New Girl is also on its final season. They knew they were ending. It's only 13 episodes, or 8. Actually, it's only 8 episodes, and they ran 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 like back to back 2 weeks in a row, and now it's over. Like, they've run its course. It's all done.
Yeah, but like that show is like, they put them out on the ice and let them float out to sea. Like, they were like, we're good to go, man. Like, we know. It was almost at the point where it was like, dude, if Nick and her don't get together soon, like, I'm going to stop watching just because I don't fucking care anymore. Like,
yeah, right.
You need to just wrap this up. Everybody's paired up.
I completely agree. And they knew they were going out. They were given the time, and they wrote a season. In fact, it was released later this year because they were given the time to write an 8 episode, like, see you later. So it's, it's further on in the future. Folks are married and have kids, and there's all this, like, and they do a good job of like giving us the gap, like telling us what happened in between the end of last season and this current season. But
yeah, but I was glad they started it 3 years in the future, because I was like, oh, dude, don't be a timeline season. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need where the first 3 episodes are Nick proposing, and then we have like another sequence. It's the wedding, and then like all of a sudden we're now like in the future kind of thing. Like, nah, man, just fast forward that shit, put everybody where they need to be, and let's have the one wrap up.
Exactly. Well, and what I was saying about that show compared to the Mick is my favorite seasons or portion of a season of the New Girl is when Zooey Deschanel was on maternity leave. And I'm sorry to say that. Like, she's not the funniest one in that group at all. Even though the show is based around her. Like, I found her comedy to be subpar compared to the people she was working with.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was one of those shows, too. Like, The New Girl and... Oh, fuck, what's the other one? Hold on. It's going to bother me now.
Who's
God
in it?
damn it. Now I can't even remember. I literally just had it in my head until I started talking about The New Girl. Oh, How I Met Your Mother.
Right.
Like, the main dude in that show is like the least funniest guy. But then you had Neil Patrick Harris' character like steal the show with how good he was. And everybody else filled their parts. Like, Zooey Deschanel is like kind of like the same. Like, out of the whole crew, she's probably the least funniest, but she's also, I still feel like the glue of the show. Like, really, like no one would really kind of... Without her, the whole shenanigan hijinks, because she's the one that's like pries into everybody's life.
Right.
But like I thought she was good. Like, I loved her character.
She's not bad. All I'm saying is that the episode, she was out for like a good 3/4 of one season, and I super enjoyed those. And I don't know if it's just because I don't know why that is. Like, if the writing is just different when she's on the screen, like what they have to get her into, everybody could just, I don't have to watch, when she wasn't there, I didn't have to watch her jokes, attempts, and then get to the funny people. It was just all funny people all the time when she wasn't there. And it doesn't stop my enjoyment of the whole show. She had her moments. And yes, you're watching the show through her eyes. She is the central focus with all these people orbiting around her, and that's where you got all of them being funny. But just when she was out, man, boy, was it funny. God, it was so funny.
Did you like it when the Wayne's boy was on there?
Like the
Coach?
First episode, and then he wasn't there for then he was there for like 4 episodes, like 4 seasons later.
Yeah, dude, like, I love when Coach is on, man. I love Coach's character.
Oh, I mean, you can't go wrong with the Wayans. You can't you can't go wrong with the Wayans. You just bring one in, you're good to go,
What else we got?
Last one. Okay. So Quarry was a show from last summer, but it's still considered this season.
Quarry?
It was Quarry, not Corey, not you.
Oh, Quarry. Gotcha.
Quarry.
Okay.
It is a single. Gotcha. It was a single shot.
Like, there's a fucking show with my name, dude. No wonder that shit's
Why am I not
canceled.
watching this show?
Well, one, like, my name is just, it's not like a Madonna or like, it just doesn't stand well on its own. Like,
right.
hey, man, are you watching Corey? Yeah, I'm watching Corey. Like, it doesn't have a good TV, movie, really anything other than a person's name ring to it.
I'll guarantee. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There will never be a show called Corey. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, like, you can have Corey as a character on the show, because I mean we know that's successful. That works.
Mm-hmm. That works.
But you cannot have the show named after Corey. Like, that will fail miserably.
What's the last character you remember named Corey?
It's here. Boy Meets World's probably one.
Okay, that's probably the last one too.
Yep.
One of the guys on SEAL Team is named Clay, and I'm like, yeah, that's up there. Especially when David Boreanaz yells my name.
Yeah, but you're sneaky too. You could also go by your real name.
You don't need to give that to anybody. They don't need that kind of information. If you have show, I think it was Showtime. Anyways, look up Quarry, whatever it was on. It was a one single season. It was set in the 70s. The guy returns from Nam. It's the problems with that. He gets involved with some unsavory characters. One of his other war buddies sets him up with some stuff. It's just kind of like this descent into crime that this guy has to. It's all like, woe is me. This happened. I have to keep going this path, even though it's the wrong path, to finish this out. And that's the whole season. It wraps nicely. Not like, it's not a cliffhanger where you're like, oh shit, next season. I was like, ooh, cool, what's gonna happen next? And then they didn't renew it. But go check it out. it's set once again. I love period pieces like The Americans because you just get to, this was set in the 70s, so it's another like everything is 70ish, and it's like, oh, it's so cool just looking at all the way they just transform their sets and their locations to 70s. It's great.
Yeah, that was like never mind, totally lost it. Doesn't even matter. Show's already been canceled. Oh yeah, Life on Mars, man. Like I love that show. Was set in the 70s, and that show was great. That was another show that made me like start distrusting TV because it was so good. And then they canceled it, and then they wrapped it up, but with like the most bullshit fucking like, okay, yes, that's a convenient way to really just sum it all up together. Like we were all on a spaceship in some fucking sequence dream or whatever, you know, like we're really going to land on Mars. Like I was like, you motherfuckers, man, that's bullshit. You had some X-File kind of shit going on in the background with these weird matrixy bugs and stuff. It would have been so good, and I'm still bitter about that one.
Yeah, let us know how you feel, Corey. Let's see. The Strain was canceled. That was like 3 or 4 seasons on Sci-Fi? Maybe AMC. I don't remember. But Strain was
Strain like FX.
Yeah, that was it. It was FX. That's correct.
Because that was the vampire show. I've watched season 1 of that, and that was pretty good. And then again, it was another one of those shows where like something, I probably moved houses or whatever, and it was just like I never got like probably
turned
when
it back
was,
on.
Probably when it was back on, my DVR was just not there. I'm like, well, exactly. I missed a season. I guess I'll catch it when it comes out on Netflix.
Right. That was a great show. Good story. I can't tell you I remember how they wrapped it up, but I don't feel like I'm missing anything in my head, so I guess they got to wrap it up okay. But it had run it by the time this last season happened, I was watching it because I'd already sunk 3 seasons into it or whatever. So I was like, I'm gonna finish. If I give you 2 seasons, I'm gonna finish you out whether you're a shit show or not, because I've already given you 2 years of my life. Now you owe me. God damn it, you owe me. So I'm gonna watch you, and you better come around.
I'm still giving it time, man. I'm still giving it time.
That's right. Now I have to know how this ends, whether it be shitty or not. Last one on our list of canceled shows that I give a shit about is Turn, Washington Spies, which was an AMC show. Watch it. It's very cool. Cool storyline, Revolutionary War type stuff. George Washington. It's about the whole spy ring that was run. He didn't run it, but it was during that time. It's how they did all. It's very intriguing. Had its good action points, had its good drama points. Not too much drama that was still in there that you were like, holy shit, just fucking let's do something more fun, please. Like it wasn't like that, but there's enough of everything and some great actors, some great villains. One guy who's just makes my skin crawl because he has like this high pitched voice, and it's kind of like it's a British guy, and he was the most ruthless person on the show. And he just had this horrible high-pitched voice, and it was one that would like just strike. Like as soon as you heard it off camera, like during an episode, you're like, "Oh fuck, here he comes!" And like, "Hello," you're like, "Oh shit, there he is! It's gonna get crazy now." So yeah, it's a good show. It was given its time to wrap the story, so you don't feel left like, "Oh shit, what did we miss now?" It tells a great story from start to finish, so it's really good.
That's cool.
So our last thing we're going to talk about before we get to Westworld, I swear to God, we were talking about this.
Just title this episode just bullshit we talked about for a fucking hour and a half. Westworld's coming out later.
Westworld to get there at some point. Yeah, we don't do these a lot because there's not a whole lot of these. We have too many things we're dealing with. Let's talk a little bit about Lethal Weapon, the show Lethal Weapon, Corey.
Okay, I haven't watched the show. I mean, I've seen the trailers and like I know enough about the show because I've seen the fucking movies.
Okay, so you have Lethal Weapon, and it has been renewed for a season 3. It stars, and actually starred.
Oh yeah, that's that dude that got kicked off the fucking show.
It stars a Wayans. It stars Damon Wayans, and it stars a guy by the name Damon Wayans plays Roger Murtaugh. This is definitely a reboot of the movie. And you have a guy named Clayne Crawford who plays Martin Riggs. And
he got booted for being an asshole, didn't he?
Clayne Crawford got fired as Martin Riggs, and they didn't recast Martin Riggs. They just killed Martin Riggs off at the end of this season. So this is the 3rd season or 2nd season? This is 2nd season, right? Yes, it's the second season. It's the end of the second season. He had run his course, like the character, like his whole craziness, like he was in the movies and tracking down the drug dealer who killed his wife and kid and stuff like that had to run its course. So it was kind of settling into his procedural thing. He was still, even his downward spiral had kind of stopped, and they were kind of giving him this nice exit. And they could have let him like ride off into the sunset, but instead they just decided to shoot him at the end of the show. And like the problem is that they shot him in the chest, but like he was still breathing, even to the point where like you didn't watch him die on screen, nor did they like, because they were making sure you heard him breathing as he was laying there. Yeah. And then like I was waiting for like the screen to go black and you to still hear the raspiness and then to hear it stop, like gurgle stop, like die stop, but they didn't do that. But it's like you guys had a chance to do that. Like you could have brought in someone else to like re-record his breathing and like done that to darkness and then given everybody like the he's dead. Like he's not coming back, because what we found out is the actor is an emotional, abusive asshole on after the set. He directed a few episodes that like safety wasn't taken into consideration like it should have been. Damon Wayans like got hit by some shrapnel from one of the stunt rigs from an explosion that wasn't handled correctly because Clayne Crawford didn't give a shit, or at least that's the way he was playing it on Twitter, that Damon Wayans played on Twitter. There were like pictures of like stickers on the back lot that was like Clayne Crawford is an emotional terrorist. Like someone had made stickers, because there's nothing more passive aggressive than getting a sticker printed with your face that says like Corey is an asshole, I swear to God, and like putting it up all over where you live.
Yeah, dude, but I mean, like, how bad do you have to treat people on a daily basis for someone to like go,
I'm making stickers.
I gotta make fucking stickers about this asshole. Like, I mean, I could see like going in there and like having a bad day and being a dick to some bystander, right? Like, you know, maybe just like you cussed at him or whatever. I'm not saying you just fucking tiraded across their whole existence, you know, but like, you gotta make a conscious effort just to be that much of an asshole, like on a regular basis. Like if that's really the case, like, cause that means day by day, he just went in there and like basically systematically fucked with everybody.
Everybody, absolutely, yeah. That's what it seems like. Because no matter how much people are like, you know, maybe they're a little bit light, you know, on the emotional stability in Hollywood, or maybe the actor's just taking it too hard. For that many folks, including a seasoned veteran like Damon Wayans, to be like, "Nah, fuck you, bro." You know, it kind of sucks. So what they've done is they killed off the Riggs character, and they're bringing in a new character next season played by Sean William Scott. So Stifler is going to be on Lethal Weapon as some new guy, and it's going to be fantastic, because I'm super stoked about Sean William Scott since I saw him in Super Troopers 2 a couple weeks ago. So I'm like, yeah, I missed you on television, sir. Because you're great.
Did you ever watch him in The Goon?
No, I know I need to watch The Goon, though.
It's fantastic, man. It's such a great movie.
On par with his comedy. I've always liked his comedy. Like he's been right down my alley when it comes to the way he does his comedy. So it's good.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like he's not as like wild as you would expect it to be, but like the shit like he just says is just, it's perfect. You're like, yeah, you're good. I like everything about you.
He's like our age or a little bit older, so there's no more like slapsticks type comedy. He has to just do it all verbally. He's too old. He get too sore after, you know, some sort of his antics from back in his American Pie days, man. Yeah,
dude, like he's at that point where we all had that one friend who's like a hardcore partier, and then you just hit like a certain age and you're like, you're still doing that? Right? Like, damn, dude.
You can still do that? I can't. I have no clue.
Well, that's more of the surprise, and the question is, how are you still doing that? How?
Exactly. So I will still be watching Lethal Weapon. It has not deterred me. The story really focuses much on Roger Murtaugh as it did on Martin Riggs. So I'm not, and Martin Riggs' storyline wrapped, like his whole vendetta stuff, everything wrapped. So I'm cool. Like Roger Murtaugh has a shit ton more stuff to go, and this new guy is going to be great. So I'm fine with it. So now we're going to take a quick break. We're going to throw you up a promo from one of our friends over at the Legion of Indie podcast, the one that we're we're members of. You can check out that hashtag Legion of Indie Pods on Twitter if you want to find everybody associated with it. We're going to throw up a promo, and on the other side of that, we'll be back with our review of Season 2, Episode 4 of Westworld. We finally got to it. I don't know how. This has been way too long. This first part of the podcast. This was not planned. Okay, catch you on the flip side.
Hello, universe. Are you looking for a wrestling podcast with a positive outlook, a diversity of opinion, and a desire to engage with the fans?
Give me a hell yeah!
Well, then look no further, because Tag Me In Bro brings you all the magnificent moments, stunning surprises, and turbulent times that pro wrestling has to offer. Join Joe Tantillo and Taryn O'Connor as they break down Raw and SmackDown Live every week and deliver in-depth analysis on different topics in professional wrestling. Plus debates, predictions, and polls, all involving you, the fans. You don't want to miss out on 1 second of Tag Me In Bro content, so go on iTunes, Google Play, or Podbean now and join our Wrestle fam. We can't wait to have you join in on the conversation, and it is gonna be awesome.
All right, so here we go. Westworld, Season 2, Episode 4, titled The Riddle of the Sphinx. So let's just start off right there, Corey. Do you know what the Riddle of the Sphinx is?
Nope, sure don't.
All right, so just let me educate you here just for a minute. So the Sphinx is said to have guarded the entrance to the city of Thebes, and it asks a riddle, not a question, a riddle to the travelers to allow them passage. So the main question that everybody knows or has heard before is, which creature has one voice and yet becomes 4-footed, 2-footed, and then 3-footed? So you know what the answer to that question is?
No.
It's man. 4-footed when you're a baby. It's about life. It's about the lifespan of a man. So of a human, not man. PC is 2018, Clay. You crawl on all fours. Then you spend most of your life walking on 2 legs, and then the 3-legged is when you have a cane and you're old. So you have 3 legs, and it's that life and death thing. It's going. Yeah, it's that imagery. There was or by some accounts, says Wikipedia, there was a second riddle. That first one was the main riddle that everybody knows. The second one was, there are 2 sisters. One gives birth to the other, and she, in turn, gives birth to the first. Who are the 2 sisters? And the answer to that one, I didn't know, is day and night.
I was going to say, is it the sun and moon?
Right. It's pretty much, right.
Damn, I would have hoped they would have asked me that one.
You're like, do you have another question? Is there a second? Is there a B? Is there a B side to this, please? So supposedly, if you answer the question right, the Sphinx would eat itself or kill itself, and it would allow you to enter Thebes or whatever it happened to be guarding. But Thebes is what it says here. I don't know if they mentioned that before, but so the title of the episode up front already talks about we know we're focusing on life and death, beginning and endings, the span of man, what is happening, people, moving from one stage of life to another stage. That's what they've said in these riddles, especially the first one, and we see that in more than one individual in this show, in this episode. Another part that makes complete sense is this is Lisa Joy's directorial debut. This is the first thing she has ever directed in life, according to IMDb and what everybody's saying. But she's written for the show for a whole bunch of episodes and written a whole bunch of. So she's a writer by trade.
Yeah,
and this is a perfect show for her to direct because there's very little action, and pretty much it is conveying a shit ton of information in an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's a whole lot going on in this episode.
There is so much that we don't even see Maeve or Dolores at all.
Yeah.
And that part, I was like, and we are way down. This is a straight Man in Black story. This entire hour and 10 is more for his story and backstory, which was amazing. So I'm not breaking it down chronologically this time like I did last week. If you listen to last week's 2 hour and 45-minute podcast or whatever it turned out to be, congratulations. We hope we worked you through a nice long car ride or something, because that was a task in and of itself. I hope you liked the audio clips from the show that I added in. We may continue that here and there where it's better than me saying the quote. I can just edit me out of saying it and have the person say it from the show. Makes it 10 times better.
Whatever, man.
It was
whatever makes it music to your ears.
It was
you're
fun.
The ones that listen to it.
It was fun. I had a blast doing it. It just took me forever, and so I apologize for how it came out the morning of Sunday morning. Man, it came out Sunday morning. Like I was editing that thing on Mother's Day. Like, I got to get this thing out. I'm sorry. Everybody, just leave me alone for 2 hours so I can finish putting these freaking audio clips in here. So we start this episode. This is our 30 years ago timeline. It's not, I hate saying 30 years ago or 2 weeks ago because time is moving in each of these timelines. So it's definitely not 30 years ago, but it's sometime in that past. It's after Delos has invested in it. It's actually after William has taken over because of what we find out in this first scene. So the episode opens with the song Rolling Stones' Play With Fire, and they give this great single pass through this room / like loft, like apartment style, and it's very, you can tell it's futuristic, but I feel like it was almost like a throwback to like the 70s, like if you were in the 70s and you looked at a futuristic, like when they thought of the future in the 70s movies, like the original movie, it had that feel.
It definitely had a different era kind of vibe going to the room. Like, it wasn't completely futuristic. It wasn't like straight 70s shag carpet kind of shit, but it was like a weird blend of the two. And like everything was all white and wooded, and it was a lot of aesthetics that would remind you of my house.
Very true. Well, and pretty much any movie in the 70s that was that took place in the future.
Yeah.
And I loved it because it was so retro future. It was great. Like, it was fantastic. And there's so much symbolism in just the room itself. So you have not only an hourglass, which plays part through the entire episode. So you have an hourglass, which is already depicting the passage of time and how it's finite. But at least in the initial sweep, the hourglass is sitting next to an ashtray full of cigarettes, which we know, come to find out later on, like that's what he's dying of. Is cancer, is some sort of tuberculosis, or not tuberculosis? Is it tuberculosis? Is that even right? It's lung cancer. It's to that effect.
Yeah.
And you also have they sweep past a goldfish in a bowl. I give this 2. I did a lot of research, watched a lot of reviews before we recorded this, and folks were talking about how the goldfish is compared to what he's in. He's in his own little goldfish bowl. James Delos is, right?
Yeah.
But I also want to attribute to the fact that a goldfish notoriously has a very short memory, and very short, does not have a long-term memory. And I would also like to convey that towards James Delos as well, the host / human hybrid that he's trying to become, and his issues with his mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You like that? I didn't hear that from anybody, so I was like, yeah, that's right. You heard it here on Two Dads Review podcast first. The goldfish, not only is he in a goldfish bowl, but he is a goldfish because his mind is not even, the goldfish will only remember like 7 seconds in the past type thing, or whatever the number is. But
yeah, somebody's going to come back with like a bazillion goldfish like facts about how they can remember up to like 12 years or some shit like that.
If all the people who download this show every week, if just one person would just be like, hey, man, what about this thing? I'd be like golden, because we don't have our comments like we used to back on our YouTube video for Star Trek. We had a couple of folks who were all about that show. They were like, yeah, let me talk about Star Trek. So like, yeah, let's talk about it. Like, everybody's like, I'm just going to watch this stuff and listen. I'm not going to talk. Be quiet in the corner and just listen to it. So anyways, the shot finishes on a workout, on the pedals of a workout bike, and you see someone pedaling. He finishes it up, grabs his smokes, grabs his water, and stops the record from playing. And this is pretty much, and so we find that the reveal is it's James Delos. It's Jim Delos. We're like, oh, really? So what's going on here? We see a day in the life. So we go everywhere from taking a piss to doing his eye drops to eating his apple to jerking it to feeding his fish. It's like, this is great. All right, I could have missed half of that stuff. But the important part is at the end of it all, he's made himself coffee and he's pouring himself some creamer, and he misses his pour with that creamer pretty rough. His hand shakes, and then like his aim goes off real bad of the creamer pour.
Yeah, and that's when you kind of realize that, oh, he's one of them.
Something's up. Yeah.
Yeah, like...
So what of him
if I had
is
a
he?
bet, I wouldn't peg him as human.
Right. So his mirror hologram announcer says that he has a visitor. So he gets up there, he checks his collar, and it's a pivotal shot during the whole show. As you see from the mirror, William walk in through the door of the apartment loft area, fishbowl. And they start this conversation, and you're watching it the first time through, like, okay, this is cool. And they sit down, he pours him a drink with a whiskey he brought. William says it's a little early for me. James says it's a little late, don't you think? And then he says,
if you aim to cheat the devil, you owe him an offering.
And then James is like, I'm ready to get out of here. Let's go. When can I get out? And William tells him that the observation period for him is almost over. We learned that James' disease he's dying from is one that he cut the funding to 15 years ago. So it's like one of those, like, gotcha.
Yeah, right. Like, I probably could have had a cure for this by now.
Yeah, we could have so fixed this. This is poetic. Yeah, exactly. We learn also that at least at the beginning of this, he's in Carlsbad, California, or at least thinks he is. This is pretty much just a throwback to the original Westworld was in Carlsbad, California, I believe is what I heard someone say. I didn't go back and watch the movie again, but I believe the original Westworld was in California, in Carlsbad. At the end of the questioning, James is like, what are the point of these questions? And William tells him it's fidelity. And James is like, well, what, so you think we're going to have the same conversation again? And then he's like, that's a little far-fetched, don't you think? And then William hands him a piece of paper, and they cut the scene. Now, I originally was like, oh shit, what they said's on that paper, like up front. Like the very first time I saw it, I was like, he's already done it. Like he thinks he's, so you'd see that James thinks he's still alive and still being tested to then die and then, be made into a live forever machine.
The live forever machine.
Right. Because let's all put it this way. You're not the one living forever. If you download your consciousness, your original unless you are cutting and pasting, if you're just copying and pasting, you're still going to die and something else is going to live in your place. It's not going to be you. To everybody else it will be you, but it's not really you for real unless they cut and paste your consciousness onto something else and remove it from your body. Transfer the soul, which they're not going to be able to do that.
Well, that's if you believe. That's if you think you got a soul.
I mean, you may not have one.
Right now, Westworld's just talking about swapping
brain remembering
brain matter for brain matter, which it looks like they were able to do, but the fact that the brain knows something like that it's supposed to be dead keeps failing in the system.
Right. Plenty of things send it over the edge. So during this conversation as well, you see a little bit of jittering happening with James, and you see William reacting to it to a certain extent, but they don't give you a lot of that reaction the very first scene. So that scene ends. Now we're in the 2 weeks ago timeline. We are after Pariah, after the Man in Black and Lawrence were met by the people at night and they all shot themselves. Like, we're after that scene, they're just riding. And then all of a sudden, like, as they're riding this trail, morning, afternoon time, something like that, like, a riderless horse just goes in front of them. And I love how Lawrence is, like, looking around, like, where's the guy on that horse? And the Man in Black just goes where the horse, he's like, I'm going where the horse came from.
Yep. Yeah, he doesn't think twice about it. He's like, we go in that direction now.
Exactly. It's like, this is on purpose. That horse didn't just ride by for no reason. And they come across, well, it's a fucking nightmare. It's a fucking nightmare. Like, it's a nightmare. They're building a train track and they're using the visitors they've captured as Sleepers. I did not know what that term of that board, that
The big piece of wood under a railroad track?
it's called a sleeper. And they're putting people down as sleepers. They're putting them to sleep as sleepers. I don't even know how you want to put it, but they're drilling the giant spikes through their faces and feet.
Yep.
And the man in black makes a comment that the railroad they're at should be heading north, but it's heading west. So he says the track's supposed to head north or heading west. So there's multiple contenders in this game. So now he's kind of realizing that even though every time he runs into something, the little boy, the little girl who says this game is for you, William, that everybody is playing this game, at least not just him. They're all in this game together.
Yeah, like everybody's seeking. We're not still sure if it's the same end goal, but you're starting to come more and more narrowed in, at least on like everybody so far is heading in the same direction. Now, I don't know if it's just because these other things are going to serve a purpose along the way, you know, so they just got to kind of move them, story-driven stuff, or if it's like they're just like pawns in a big chess game.
Right.
You know, kind of thing. It's like, is Ford still kind of manipulating what's going on with, like, say, the track now heading north? Like, he was like, that's where your exit is. Or not north, but west, you know? He's like, you don't go this way anymore now that you're off the loop. Because, you know, even with Maeve, there was still that weird secret code, like, you're going to break out through the train and you're going to come back. And, like, it was like she almost had to fight it to override it. Mm-hmm. You know? So I wonder if, like, they all got quote unquote new directions, like one final, like, command kind of thing.
Absolutely. I also want to bring up that if you line a railroad track with human bodies as sleepers, that track is not going to be very stable. Like, at least the portion where there's squishy people underneath of it.
Yeah, I think this was like HBO just going, hey, we need a fucked up scene. And someone was like, well, have we done anything with the train yet?
Well, here's the question. So last week, the only of the two episodes of episode 2 and 3 that we reviewed last week, they only had one scene in the present day, the present timeline, and that was the security team with Strand and Bernard, we think is Bernard, after seeing some of the stuff today, and Stubbs and the security team heading towards, they were on a railroad track, and they were heading into where that mountain, where, you know, where the train would go through the mountain, but there's smoke coming out of that hole. Part of me wonders if, like, sometime between then and this moment, a train goes over this portion of track, or a portion that has people as the sleepers, and it messes with the train, and the train wrecks, and that's where a train is wrecked because of these. It's to keep them from leaving the park type thing. Just an idea. It popped in my head when I was like, that's not very stable.
Yeah, I think that was just more of a scene like, we're gonna ignore the fact that the bodies would probably crumble under the weight. We're just going to assume that the humans are equally spaced out under the steel, that they got enough of them that it's going to hold the weight. But I think it was just there to go, hey, don't forget, we're HBO. Like, right. We're not regular TV, because here's a guy getting spiked.
Still going to put a spike through this motherfucker's face right in front of you.
And it's weird, too, because, like, every other, I don't know what they call the host. I'm just calling them host.
Host or visitors. That's what I go with.
Yeah. Like, seems to be pretty much, like, off their rocker. But, like, even that, like, railroad worker that, like, eyeballed the man in black, like, he just kind of almost, like, looked through him still. It was weird. And, like, he just kind of ignored everything, you know? So part of me wondered, was those were some of those things hosts too, like were they hosts they captured as well? Right.
Well, and I think that guy was more there, and he was so prominent because he was holding a timepiece, and it's this whole episode deals with time the whole time, Way to go, Clay. I couldn't get around it. But he was holding a pocket watch, and he was prominent because I think it's a focus on time as well. But yes, why do they not go after him as a visitor? I don't know yet, because he seems to be able to get out. I mean, he also has plenty of good fights that he gets out of really well, that he could be killed in at any moment.
Yeah, but like, and it's weird because we've seen some hosts that just appear to be like day-to-day people have gone like off their rockers, and yet everyone that he interacts with, it's kind of like, you would say normal, like they just seem to ignore him. It's only like the guys where he's either physically instigated some shit with, or of a war-minded, like they fight, like that's what their job is.
Right. They do seem to ramp it up when they get around him, and they're definitely telling more of a story than just taking you hostage or killing you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whenever he's around, he definitely has a better story going on around him than most of the other poor visitors in the park. So at the very end of that scene, they just took me out of the scene completely. And this is kind of along the lines of when extras go too far. Like if you ever want to like go on YouTube and just type in something like when extras do too much or something. Like there's a guy swinging a hammer that's supposed to be nailing a nail, and he just misses completely. But I'm like, you're just giving it kind of like a half-ass swing, like you weren't even trying to go for anything. And I was like, come on, extra. I was like, come on, buddy. Like you could do that. Like the guy who's sweeping in the back of, I think it's like Indiana Jones, or like the guy in Indiana Jones during the famous scene where he pulls the gun out to shoot the guy with the sword, and the butcher behind him is like not even cutting on anything. He's just kind of waving it in the air, waving the cleaver in the air, or the guy who's like sweeping that's not even touching the floor. Like it's like, come on, extra, you had one job. Just hit something with the hammer.
Yeah, I always like looking at like, especially when you find stuff like that, looking at big fight scenes and seeing the person that just like screwed up with like the torch or something. It just looks like he doesn't belong in the middle of the crowd. It's like finding Where's Waldo, you know? Right. You're like, there's that jackass.
Yep. It's like the guys who are slap fighting in the background. It's like, oh, don't hit me. Ugh. The guy swinging his chair at nothing. You know, you're like, there's no one around you. Right. Okay, so next scene, we are after the Battle of Fort Forlorn Hope, and this is where Clementine had dragged Bernard, had knocked him out and started dragging him, because Clementine loves to drag.
Yeah, like she's just fucking straight beast mode when it comes to dragging people.
She gets hard dragging people. She loves it. So she drags Bernard to the mouth of this cave, some cave up a hill, leaves her rifle, and just walks away. And Bernard wakes up, or you know, he's gathered himself enough to be like, Clementine, wait, blah blah blah. But she's zombie Clementine, just back to wherever she's supposed to be going. She's doing her job and doing it well.
Yeah, she just leaves him high and dry. Like, okay, did my part. I'm done with you now.
Right, but at some point she stopped to tie him up because he had to untie himself, but he wasn't tied when she knocked him out. So I thought that was kind of weird. I don't know if that was like...
It's probably just got knocked out, then immediately got tied up, and then they just started dragging his ass.
She's like, you not being tied up messes up my perfect dragging skills. I'm tying you up, and now I'm dragging you more.
Don't need you flailing about.
Right, I need you flopping around. Tie your ass up. So he hears a noise in the cave. He grabs a rifle. He inspects, and... I let out like a hoop, like a woohoo. I was like, yeah, when we saw who it was. So chained up in the cave is Elsie. He didn't kill her last season. I was so happy.
Yeah, totally. Because when you saw that scene last season, man, it totally looked like he just took her out.
Right, which is cool because if you remember, it bugs me, but it's cool, is because Bernard asks Ford if he had made him do this before, after he killed his girlfriend, after he made him kill his girlfriend. After Ford made Bernard kill his girlfriend, he asked, have you maybe do this before? And he said, of course not.
Yeah.
And then later on in the season, you see him flashback through all the stuff he's done, and he sees himself choking, grabbing Elsie from behind. But he didn't what bothered me is he gave himself like that, like, oh no look when he got done with that flashback last season. But he should have been like, oh, thank God I didn't kill Elsie. Like, he should have had like a relief look on his face, but he didn't at the end, when that happened in season 1.
Well, but he hadn't like accessed all of his memories, and like
he just knew he choked her out, and then he like cut away from it. Okay, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, like, I mean, that was probably just one of those like just got flashed up in his head because he was like trying to find like what other bad things he did, and of course that was probably one of the most recent ones. But you can also see that he was also in zombie mode when he was like doing that cave shit. So,
man,
who knows how hard those files are, like, or memories are hard like to access for them now because Ford kind of like, I don't know, automated him. You know, like took him like offline enough just to go, hey, you need to go do this shit. Turned him into like a little gopher.
Very true. So I love that he's been through all this stuff. So he's all serious and all like on his path. But when he finally frees her or he comes up to her, she's like,
are you fucking kidding me?
Because the last thing she saw was him choking her out. You know, and it's
just, she was like, stay away from me, like flipping out. And he's all like, hey, no, it's okay. Like, I'm not like that anymore. And she's like, bullshit, fuck off.
Right. And then watching him, like, she takes him by gunpoint and he starts glitching out bad. And like, watching her realize what's going on with him and realizing that he's a host was pretty damn magical. Like, to the point where she's like, but wait, you have... You know, he falls down the hill. He hands her his tablet, and she's like, "But you have an ex-wife, and you had a son, and you have a backstory. Like, damn it!" She's like, "How did I not fucking see it?"
Yep. Yeah, and then like, and she comes to grasp with it like real quick.
She does,
because I feel like most of the people on this show, it's been a whole like, what the fuck's happening? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Like, I guess maybe she'd been chained up long enough by herself to realize something weird was going down. So this wasn't like a super duper shock.
True.
Because, you know, he did like mention, I think, before he like seizured out that like the hosts have taken over, and she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And that's when he like starts going all shaky and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, he confirms for us what I had mentioned earlier is that the game is for everyone. Ford has started up a new game, and it's for everybody who's left in the park, and all the hosts are turning on the visitors. So yeah, he tells her that before he glitches out. She also, I love how she's like, "I'm not going to brick you, asshole." It's like, you got too much to answer for.
Yeah, she's like, you definitely owe me.
Right. So as she shuts him down, we get what I call Bernard flashback number 1, because he goes through 3 or 4 this episode. So in this flashback, you see the white goo that makes the hosts with like blood in it. You see some eyeballs bouncing on the ground. You see one of the white scary host drones from the secret labs. I don't know anything better to call them, but the white faceless hosts. He's placing a tray of eyeballs down. You see another of those scary hosts moving a tray of what are brain cores, but they're red. They're not white like we've seen earlier when they chipped open that Ghost Nation guy's head. Yeah.
These ones were like there were several red ones.
Several of those red casings, and then all in ice cream cone holders from like any ice cream shop you've been to, like what they display their cones in. They just bought a whole bunch of those things. I was like, oh, I love when the props guys are like, I need something that can do this. Now I can make it, or I can just go and buy it from IKEA or something. You know, I can buy it from the ice cream supply store who sells ice cream cone stands. And then we see Bernard in the flashback watching all of the movement in the lab, looking all mean, like not nice Bernard, like zombie Bernard, like not his normal self.
He had the eye of, I'm going to kill everybody.
Mm-hmm. So he wakes up from her putting him down, and he gets to ask the question I asked you at the beginning of the podcast, is this now? Which is cool because we get that from we've gotten that from a few hosts so far this past 2 seasons. Elsie goes over with him that it looks like he shot himself. Like, you have so much cortical damage. Like, it looks like you shot yourself. And he's like, what? Pretty much like, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Good call. Good call there, coach.
You're good at your job, because that's exactly what he did. So from here, you get the normal response of most people who are just now finding out what's going on, is they're like, oh, well, we have protocols for this stuff, and they'll come and get us. And then everybody who's been in it for a while goes, no, they're fucking not. Like, nobody's coming to get us. They've locked the park down. They have something they want. And before they get it, they're not going to let any of us go, nor come and save us.
Yeah. We're all fucking sheep to the slaughter.
Right. And then we start seeing Bernard having some flashback style, like, hallucinations, I would call them. He sees himself walking up to the cave, and he's like, we have to get somewhere safe before we can't just be out here in the open, because if they find us, they're going to kill you for sure because you're a human, and no telling and I'm going to die because I need cortical fluid. So he has this hallucination and sees himself in like zombie mode walking into the cave, and he follows himself and he finds this like hidden spot in the rock. And I love the shot they do, like where you see hallucination Bernard turn it, but then when they cut and he would be normally bringing his hands down, it's present Bernard with his hands still tied because of her like finishing the action. I thought that was just kind of a cool shot. Especially as a first-time director, I was like, nicely done. I was like, that's really cool how you did that, how you like transition. I almost thought, I had to rewind it because I thought she actually did like a seamless like CG, like they started with one Bernard and then like swapped him in like a you know, a certain way to make it the new one at the end of it. But they just cut. But it was still a cool cut because it was him finishing the motion the first one started. I just liked it. I just wanted to bring it up.
As I say, man, I was like, for a very simple scene, dude, you're like really into it.
Well, it's this whole like this whole stuff with Bernard and her is where I'm not even sure if she's really here, because part of their time with her, she's doing stuff in the present, but he's not there. So where is he and where is she and what is going? Like, I still don't know how much of it is actually real. Well,
I think it's that whole like, he's still right there with her, man. It's just he's zoned out. He's actually seeing a memory. Mm-hmm. But like, and we're just seeing the memory through his eyes at that moment in time. That's why you have that weird silhouette of like both of them still going on.
Well, it's
no different than someone like being caught daydreaming.
Agreed. There's just one part later on inside the bunker that scared me. That was all. I was like, oh shit! Please tell me she's really back. Like, we'll get to it in a minute. So let's move through this real quick. They get inside Lab 12. It's a fucking nightmare. There's bodies everywhere. She has no clue what's going on. She also notes that like it's a complete lab that she has no clue that it existed. And they find the remnants of a control unit printer, which the control unit is their CPU, what goes inside the ice cream cone.
Yeah.
The brain ice cream cone. And then Bernard has another flashback. And it pretty much picks up where the last one left off. You have all you see really is some of the scary drones just doing their whole working thing, and the control unit printer starts printing something. That's all you see, and then it cuts away again. Because Elsie snaps him out of it because she sees one of those fucking drones. And
she's like, what is that? And Bernard, like, even, and it's so funny because he makes the comment of like, you know, basically don't threaten it and it'll just leave you alone. But I don't give a fuck who you are. If you're holding a gun and you see something like that, your instant reaction, you could be the nicest person in the world that just goes like, I don't shoot guns. I don't touch them. But that thing would make you go, nah, I'm cool.
I'll take
that fucking gun and I'm shooting that fucking thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And she does, like, cause she turns on it. She doesn't lower the gun and it starts to like Mike Myers like fast walk towards her, and I'm like, you gotta have it. But it takes her 3 shots. She hits him in both shoulders and finally hits him in the head. But I was like,
yeah, it basically pulled the slasher walk. It was like, hey, I'm not gonna stop.
Right, I'm coming until I'm not here anymore. Like you have to stop my brain from moving my legs, which is what she did. Nice headshot, by the way, at the very end. But man, yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, if that's standing across the room from me and I have a gun, it is getting every round in that weapon.
Yeah, that's one of those things like after you shoot it and you like know it's dead, but you're still like the hairs on the back of your neck are still standing up. You just empty the rest of the clip in it just to be sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, if she hadn't shot it in the head when it fell, you walk up to it and shoot it in the head.
Yeah, I think even after I shot it in the head and fell, I would have just walked up to it and like shot it a whole bunch more times in the head so there just wasn't a head.
Yeah, just friggin' skull stomped it or something.
Yeah.
So she knows she needs to find cortical fluid for Bernard. She asks if he had anything to do with what happened in that room or what's happened in the park. He says no, and she asks if Ford's in control of him now. And this is when he tells her, informs her that Ford is dead. That kind of hits her hard, and then she proceeds to inject him with some more brain fluid, putting him out again. Now, next scene, we are to Grace Her name is Grace, by the way, from last week. At least currently, as we stand right now, her name is Grace. The lady from the Raj who shot the guy. She's being brought in with a couple other guests by the Ghost Nation. The people she's tied to, by the way, are the couple from Season 1, Episode 1. I know you probably recognize them, but you're like, wait a second, when did I see them last season? I looked it up. Season 1, Episode 1, and he's actually the one at the very end of that episode when Hector's like supposed to give this new the writer guy Simon, is that his name? The writer?
Yeah.
Simon was like had written this whole new speech for Hector's character. He was the one that shot Hector in the neck in the middle of the speech after he had killed everybody in the town. And like he's like, I shot him. I got it right there. I shot him in the neck, honey. Like it's that couple.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones.
Okay, gotcha.
They're the ones that like when you first come into what's the name of the town?
I have no idea.
Fuck.
It's just another Western town.
No,
to me.
but it's,
I don't keep up
I
with the
know.
names.
Sweetwater. When you come into Sweetwater, it's when the sheriff is there by the wanted poster, and his whole thing is like, hey, you look like someone who could, ride off and take down Hector, because he's talking about the Hector wanted poster. And that couple goes on it. And like the second or third time you see that opening sequence of Sweetwater, that couple is the one that the sheriff points at, as opposed to like pointing at Teddy like he did the first time. They appear, they take it, they go up in the mountains. That's when the sheriff like glitches out and like his eyeball starts rolling back in his head and shit. Like he strokes out almost like the host does. That's the whole couple. Anyways, I just want to bring that up because I took time to go back and like watch their scenes real quick to see what they were all about. So this is also where Stubbs was taken by by the Ghost Nation.
I love.
See, I
wish like the listeners could see your face every time you do that, because like you say it and you genuinely go like I could see the anguish on you.
You watch my white depression try to fade from my face. Like you can't say that word anymore. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so this is where the Ghost Nation had took Stubbs after we saw him being attacked in Season 1. We also see that Grace, like, she understands Lakotan language. And Stubbs makes a comment like, you've spent enough time in the park to actually learn a language. And she's like, I pay more attention to my narrative because I don't like people, pretty much.
Yeah.
And she's
like, just leave me alone.
Right. She translates it to your time. Time is coming or something is coming. My guess is that the lady was telling him that your time has come or something to that effect. That's my guess, is that she was saying your time has come just as a threat, but who knows? Or time. I don't know. This whole episode's talking about time, so it has to be something to do with time.
Yeah, because I mean, no one gets hurt.
No, exactly. And the whole point is that we see this here, and Stubbs mentions it, that the Ghost Nation is only killing other hosts and not humans. They're keeping them tied up and together, but they're not killing any of the humans. They're only killing other hosts they catch, which goes in line with what we saw and see in episode 2, where Maeve and them run across them and they're like, we want him. You two could go about your way. They were trying to protect Simon as opposed to like actually killing them.
Yeah.
And that's why they chased them, because they're like, we're going to get that guy and then kill the hosts. But we all thought 2 episodes ago that they were just going to try to kill Simon. So that's cool. So the question now, the overarching question is, why is the Ghost Nation protecting humans? Is this Ford? Is Ford in control of them? Certain, as part of his program, like these are the folks. He loved the Ghost Nation. We know that's established from last season that he loved the Ghost Nation characters. And so he may be using them as like his commandos in his game to keep the humans safe where they can.
Okay. I could see that.
Stubbs here is also expecting protocol as well. Like he's talking about, they'll come and they'll sweep the park and they'll come get us. Like, but they're not going to.
Yeah, not happening, dude. Like you gotta. That ship has sailed so bad. You gotta get over it.
Y'all should know better to trust your higher ups in a contracting company. Come on. That has something hidden behind it, but I'm not going to mention it. And anyways, Grace makes a comment that she's not looking to leave. She's not looking to get out of the park. She's like, I'm not getting out of here. I'm not looking to get out of here. And we know why that is later on down the road. So let's take a quick break. we're gonna run one more promo for some of our friends. That another great podcast. You guys should check it after you listen to ours, and then we'll catch up for the other half of the episode. So see you guys in a second.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
How do you measure success?
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what? I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people. You want people to care. You want to strike emotions. And I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one too.
Quarter pounder with cheese in France, Mickey? What? Royale with cheese. Yeah. I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice at my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
You can find us at superheroespeak.com. You can download it anywhere podcasts are available. Everyone, thanks for listening. As always, don't let your cake get caught in the door.
All right, so next scene, which we actually didn't mention something at the end of the last Man in Black Lawrence conversation. I like that when the Man in Black is like, we can go to Las Mudas, it's where everything's leading. It's only a certain distance away, and I like how Lawrence tries to steer him away from that. He's like,
Plus detours through Las Mudas.
What, that two-bit town? Have better places.
Don't cut the crap, Lawrence. I know you have family there.
Yeah, I like how he's they're almost like buddy, but not at the same time. You know, like it's a weird dynamic going on between those two, and you're like, okay, is he kind of feeling for him, or is he still playing with him, or like, does he really care? Like,
well,
there's a whole bunch of weird mixed emotions going on.
Yeah, it's always like whenever Lawrence like kicks into his, you can always tell when Lawrence kicks into his narrative. And the Man in Black's always like, fuck, okay, let me listen through this and then tell you to shut the fuck up because I don't care. And he does it here too. So they enter Las Mudas, and at first they're like, Las Mudas, and no one's there. Like, there's nobody. There's no townspeople. There's nothing. And they've been here before after he took Lawrence the first time in season 1, they've been to Las Mudas before. They went, and during this episode, they sit down at the exact same table, and the exact same bartender comes out to pour them. And this time, the Man in Black says,
Whiskey. Nothing fancy.
Because in season 1, when they sat down, when he asked, he just put 2 fingers up and the barkeep ran off, and it took him forever to come back. And he was like, Jesus, what fucking took you? He's like, I had to go to the Grand Reserve for you. Like, but he's like, don't pretend like you didn't go grab this asshole's cousins. That's what happened in season 1.
Gotcha.
And that's when the whole shootout happened there in season 1. So he's like, nothing fancy, which is pretty much saying, like, just do it and get back. Like, don't fucking mess around with this shit. And so he comes back, and he comes back hilariously enough with the same type of whiskey. Like, he says the same type, like the Grand Reserve. He's like, here's our Grand Reserve, sir. And so it's funny. He still brings the same whiskey out. And so he's already, so at this point, the bartender goes to pour, and he's already shaking, like, not glitch shaking, like scared shaking. And the Man in Black stops him and goes,
Hey. I haven't even shot anybody yet. What's your problem?
And that tells the Man in Black that something is wrong. Like, other than no one's there, something is really, really wrong in this town.
Yeah, and then of course he's like ambushed.
He's just... Yeah.
And conveniently, he just so happens to take his whole gun apart real quick.
And in season 1, he sits down. That's the first thing he does with Lawrence. He takes his gun out and breaks it down, which, by the way, I did the research because you're looking at my notes right now. That firearm is a Lamat 1861. And because it's a 9-shot cylinder, but it also has a either 16 or 20 gauge shotgun. There's a shotgun shell goes in the middle of that cartridge, so you can switch it and fire the shotgun slug out of it, which is like fucking awesome. like awesome. That is just cool. Because if you watch the season, because I went back and watched the season 1 episode at Las Mudas as well, or at least that scene to see how much was the same and where things started going different. Like when he kills, when the bartender brings all the cousins in and the Man in Black has a shootout, you can see him pull the hammer back. He clicks something down on the hammer, which changes where the striker strikes, and it strikes the lower section of it, and that's when he fires through the kid who's cowering behind the wall, the youngest cousin, and blows his neck off. And I never even noticed that until I like watched the weapon and was like, oh shit, that's a fucking shotgun slug going through that wall hitting that kid. I was like, damn, but that's cool.
Yeah, that's fucking sweet.
So yes, he took his gun apart, and that's when Major Craddock put his big old shotgun in his mouth, pretty much. He's like, here's how big mine is.
Yeah, just right on him, like, don't you dare move. You will have no head.
Right, so this is Craddock, where he was released by Teddy last 2 episodes ago, where he didn't kill him like Dolores told him to. This is where he ran to with his small crew he had left from the Battle of Fort Forlorn Hope.
Yep, that's right.
So...
way to sum that up.
And so at this point, they've everybody in the town is in the church. They've all been taken hostage. They're all been sequestered to the church. Man in Black and Lawrence and his family are also in there as well. Now, Craddock is giving a wondrous speech, and he's like,
you people have some village elder who can speak for you, make some kind of a deal.
And like the mayor, I guess, or the town representative stands up, and he just blows him away. He's like, I'm not doing any deals.
Yeah, dude, like that guy, you gotta feel for him, because you're like, all right, dude, he's standing up. We're gonna hear a little speech or something, like about my people, or like don't come fucking with my town. Like I was expecting like that to be where like all the guns start blazing, but instead they were just like, you're dead. And then he was like, I'm not here to make any fucking deals, just so everybody understands.
Right. So, okay, so the next thing that happens during this scene in the church is something that is being done very, very under the radar to a certain extent, but Lawrence, the host of Lawrence, is also on his way to consciousness. Because one of the first things to happen when a host gains consciousness is to remember all their past lives. So while they're tied up and they're whispering, the Man in Black and him are whispering back and forth in the church in the back, Lawrence says,
You told me you had a daughter.
And the Man in Black goes,
Did I?
like he's like, I didn't tell you that this time. So you can see the Man in Black is already confused of why Lawrence knew that, and Lawrence is like, I'm sure you told me at some point. So Lawrence is also having he's becoming conscious as well, which will play better because if you remember from the season 1 episode I'm talking about, episode 2, I believe, this is when the Men in Black comes to this town. That's when he dances with his wife in the middle by the bar and then shoots her in front of him to get the information. That's when the daughter finally clicks over to Ford's voice and tells him this. So Lawrence gaining consciousness is not good because he's going to remember all this shit later on down the road, and it may bite the Man in Black in the ass later on.
Well, is he also going to remember the Men in Black just saved everybody that he loves? Correct,
but at the end of this one, when he does save them, the little girl in Ford's not Ford's voice, but she's speaking for Ford. She goes, one good deed doesn't wash away all of your sins, or something to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely called him out, like for, hey, dude, here's for years of being an asshole, like just because you decided to be nice one time, but again. Was he really being nice, or does it still help his cause more so? Mm-hmm. Which it does. So it's really, can you say he was still being a good guy, or is he just doing what he needed to do to get what he wanted?
And that's what he said. He's like, I'm not being good. I'm just playing your game all the way to the bone, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and also Lawrence mentioning he had a daughter is kind of reminding us that, oh, wait a second. So who else is running around who's about his daughter's age at this point? It's kind of a heavy-handed thing. Not to mention they showed us him talking about his daughter in the, previously on Westworld before the episode started. So it's like, oh, we're all talking about his daughter. Gee, I wonder who his daughter could fucking be.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why she was introduced mysteriously last episode.
Right. I don't even think we pondered that. We had so much going on. I'm not sure we even pondered that last time.
Yeah, I don't
think we did.
I don't recall making any absurd guesses.
Right. So while in the church, Lawrence tells the Man in Black that there's some guns that are hidden in an unmarked grave out back, And so instead of just like, and Lawrence hatches this big plan, like, wait till they're all drunk, we'll go dig them up, and then we'll ambush them. The Man in Black's like, nah, he's like, hey, y'all want some guns?
Yeah, man, and Lawrence, like, poor Lawrence's face, dude, he was like, I literally, not even half a second, man, I just fucking told you, and you already, like, gave it up.
Like, I'm not telling you shit ever again.
Uh-huh.
And so, but the best part is, and this goes to stuff that Dolores has done earlier, is that he tells Craddock, he's like, you talk about glory, but you don't know where it is, and you haven't told your boys that. He's like, I'll lead you there. I'll take you to glory.
Yeah, that was kind of like another Dolores kind of saying the same thing earlier. Like, it's weird how they parallel sometimes, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh, very much so. And just kind of just reminding us here and there how they're both kind of traveling a certain similar path. So anyways, the Man in Black shows him, he says he'll show him where glory is. So that's it of that scene. Now we are back to 30. Actually, it's 23, at least 23 years ago, because he tells him a time change during this scene. But we have Roxy Music and Do the Strand is the name of the song playing, and James Delos is dancing like no one is watching. He is dancing.
Yeah, man, he's boogieing hardcore.
I want his shoes, by the way. I looked on Amazon. I think I'm gonna buy a pair of those shoes. It's like those no lace, like running shoes. They just look comfy as hell.
Okay, I didn't even notice the shoes at all.
I was like, those look. Someone was talking about it on Reddit, and I was like, oh, I like those shoes. Like, I need to give you some of those. Just pull them on right out the house, man. That's good stuff. So during his dancing, like, he stops in the mirror, and you could, now that we know what he is, or we think we know what he is, you can see him like examine himself and like kind of contemplate. There's all kinds of things going on in that look he's giving himself in the mirror. Yeah,
it was definitely, like, from the first time you saw it, it just seemed like it was like a scripted movement. Now when you see it, it's like he's actually intaking information,
mm-hmm.
you know, or thinking
like
about
processing
something.
Almost.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's almost like the whole problem with your consciousness not believing your reality. So he's looking at himself like, am I really looking at it was almost like, am I really looking at myself, is what I felt what he was saying in his head.
Yeah. Like, what am I looking at?
Mm-hmm. And so this time he doesn't miss the creamer pour. He lands it perfectly. No shakes or nothing. And he does the normal, the same lady announces the visitor is coming, and it's William. And I compared the two scenes. So his hair is done a little bit different. He's got a little bit of gray in it, but not so much that you would notice the time change. But he steps in the same routine, except this time William hands him the piece of paper. The original time he didn't say anything. He just handed him the piece of paper. This time...
Seems a little far-fetched, doesn't it, William?
It did, at first.
And then he hands him the paper, so it's like, you know, how long has it been? And you see that, so this time you get to see the paper. You get to see the conversation. And he asks, you know, I take it I didn't make it. You know, how long has it been? And it's been 7 years since they started this whole thing up. So I'm guessing the first scene we saw was probably year one, you know, first, second, third, fourth build type thing. This one is year 7. And we also find out here shortly that this version of Delos had made it 7 days before he broke down. William mentions to him during this one, when he asked to leave, he's like, I'm ready to sell my boat and smoke my cigars and fuck my wife. And like all the faces William, like all the little ticks that he's doing are just so fantastic. Like when he's like, fuck my wife, and you see him go, no, not that one.
Yeah, sorry. That one, you just go ahead and scratch that one off the list. That's not going to happen anymore.
Right. So informing him that his wife has died or has been dead or whatever, she died of a stroke is what he tells him. This is what causes everything to glitch out in James, and he starts twitching and not being able to speak the words, say words, and just has a breakdown. And James leaves, and you learn from the guy that it's been. She's like, hey, he's made it 7 days this time, and he's like, it's progress. 7 years to have that human host hybrid make it 7 whole days. That's horrible when it comes to the money you're pouring into this place.
Yeah, that's it's not a good return going on, right? Like, you imagine the tapes year 4, no progress. Year 5, no progress.
Right.
Oh, 7 days, guys.
This whole 7 days.
One more day than 6.
7 more.
Like, I mean, that's basically what they were living off. Is basically we made it past that 6th day in 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. You do it. He can make it one more day every year. So they're recoding it like every time. Like, who knows? But they terminate the host, and it's very inefficient termination because they literally burn everything in the fucking room.
I thought that too. I was like, okay, maybe this is the future and all that shit's like fireproof or something like that, and they just go through and spray it down. But I was like, that would be so annoying having to organize that fucking room back exactly the way it was. Like, there better be just like a mold that's dropped in there. And like, I mean, I assume probably at this point, since they're 3D printing humans, they just 3D print all the fucking furniture and shit in there.
Right.
You know, but like, I thought the exact same thing. I was like, why are you burning the whole fucking room? Like, you're telling me you couldn't like, say, go take a shower and then close that thing off and just fucking nuke him right there?
That makes complete sense to me, but you don't have a bajillion dillion dollars that these guys apparently do to bring one person back to life. So that's how the second scene with Delos ends. So now we are back to Las Mudas. They've dug up the guns. You see all the guns laying out in their crates and everything. And the nitro. The same nitro that in season 1, young William helped them to help the Confederados obtain. Remember the whole nitro delivery section of season 1?
Yeah.
So it's some of these full circle things where old William's like, yep, I remember that part. I know they have the nitro now because, god damn it, I helped them do it.
But would the nitro still be there?
I mean, I'm guessing it's the same thing. It's the same loop every time. So yeah, it's there every time. He's had intimate contact with that narrative that they're dealing with now. The fact that nitro exists in this area. And this is where Craddock fucks with the bartender, because the bartender is pouring some other guy a drink and he's shaking, and he makes him walk with a shot glass. I love every time he pours a shot of nitro, like you can hear that when it hits the table it starts sizzling because it's like acid or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he has him walk it out to the middle of, mark off 12 paces with the shot glass in the back of his hand. And then the bartender makes it without spilling it, and he still shoots him in the hand and blows his hand off.
Yeah, like it was. I mean, I knew it was coming, but you still felt bad for the bartender because, like, you saw the relief on his face as he turned around, like, "Hey, I did it, man!" And then, like, boom, you don't have a hand anymore.
Like, no more hand for you, sir. And that was it for that scene of Las Mudas. That's all we got to see for that section. So now we're at nighttime. We're with Grace and the hostages again. They're being moved down towards the water. And as they're moving down, she's asking the female white nation lady that had spoken to Stubbs earlier, or had threatened Stubbs earlier, like, where are you taking us? And she tells her that she's taking them to, they're taking them to the first of us. And the Ghost Nation person who they're taking them to is the same guy from the party 30 years ago when they sold Delos the investment with him and your blonde Jesus lady.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It's the same guy. So him being called the first of us makes complete sense. And it also lets us know that while the Ghost Nation, I just thought of this, while the Ghost Nation is like Ford's like babies, like he loved using them, they may not have been wiped every time they were killed, because if they know that he's the very first one built a long time ago, then they know the whole passage of time. Maybe.
Okay.
Makes sense to me if they're calling him that. So at this point, Grace, while they're down there, they think they're all going to get killed by this guy. He makes this great big speech, mostly about time, I believe, this time. I didn't write any of it down, but he makes a big old speech about, whatever they're going to do to them. And she's untying herself fairly easily, honestly. And she whacks somebody with a flaming, with one of the torches, and takes off into the reeds, and they go after her. Or one or two maybe pursue her a little bit. But they also grab Stubbs at knife point when he's trying to maneuver away as well. And the leader guy that we were talking about leans up to him and says,
"You live only as long as the last person who remembers you." And
then they don't cut his throat. And when he opens his eyes, all the visitors are left there, but all the Ghost Nation are gone. They just vanished into the, back to where they came from or whatever.
Yeah, at first I thought they were going to, like, slit his throat, and then he was going to realize that he's a host and all that shit too.
Oh man, there's a whole other podcast on who I think is possibly still a host that doesn't know they're a host, but we're not going to get into that right now. I think there's more tongue in cheek here than we know. I think there's more because James Dellis was like the first that they were trying to make immortal, pretty much. Doesn't mean that there aren't more further down that have started with better copies of their brains. You know what I mean? So
you're saying like you think they're
all right, here, I'll say it right now.
Repurposing multiple people?
Yeah, well, it does confirm that that what we had talked about in previous episodes, Dellis's plan was always to we were saying like replacing people with like, you know, presidents with like hosts they could control, but also we see that it's immortality. It's selling immortality to the rich.
Yeah.
Like you can live forever as a host human hybrid. And this is a kind of a far-fetched one, but the Man in Black, but William says something during his final conversation with James in the room. He's like, you know, some of us aren't supposed to live forever, is what he says. And the biggest change from the movie Westworld to the show Westworld is that in the movie Westworld, the Man in Black was a rogue robot, was a rogue host. In this one, we think he's a human. If they've successfully copied, if he's a later version where they've copied the brain right, he could be a host and not know it.
Well, don't you think he would know he's a host, even if they
Possibly. I mean, he'd be a fairly new one. It's far-fetched, it really is, but I can see it being... I think there's going to be another turn. Like, the Bernard revelation was a good one, but I think there's another one in play at some point.
Yeah, probably just because it's Westworld, and there's going to be something crazy that happens, but like, I just feel like if the Men in Black was now, like, let's say a host, he would know about it because of the way they did Delos's like little repetitive initiation. Like he would have to, like, at some point they would have had to bring the realization to him of you're in a machine.
True, except the first conversation we have with James, that version of him thinks he's still being tested to then be turned into a host. So if they let a version of the Man in Black, if the successful version never thinks it worked, then it may be a whole different story. If you release that host with the correct mind installed, who thinks that the process failed, and they're like, oh, well, come on back out of the fishbowl, like, sorry, you're going to die, and he doesn't, then, you know, he could still be an early version. I'm probably wrong. Like, I'm not saying this is like anything that I guarantee is right. I just see at some point down the road, someone getting their arm blown off and seeing that, like, there's host material underneath and not knowing they were a host.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, who in my head they could be like, I just don't see it being... The only thing I would see with the Men in Black is if he ran into his host. Like, let's say they did it, right? Mm-hmm. And they took him through a pre-state where his brain was stuck in a state thinking that maybe this would happen. So he was never told that this happened. Like, I could see him running into the host version of himself that they were trying to, like, maybe release into society or whatever they were going to do with it. But I just don't think, like, we'll see something later where, you know, the Men in Black are like, oh shit, he's a host. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that would, I don't know any kind of insane writing you could do to, like, make that, like, happen.
Agreed. The only thing I had to base it on is the fact that the movie version of Man in Black was a host. It's not like he thought he wasn't a host, but I was like, I could see them going back and being like, it was in front of you all the time. It's based on the movie. You know, that's the only reason I could see that being, like, feasible, but I don't know how they would get there. But we do know that James was the first trial that failed, but it doesn't mean he was also in Bunker 12. There could be plenty of other bunkers full of ones that are being successful or more successful for all we know.
Yeah, that's true.
Who knows? It's all up in the air. We don't know anything, which is great, which makes doing this so much fun because it's all just speculation. And at some point, the sun shines on a dog's ass at least once a day. You know, you're going to get something right at some point, or never.
Yeah, if you throw out enough accusations, one of them's going to stick.
Exactly, and I don't think we got a single thing right with any of our Game of Thrones stuff when we first started this podcast. I don't think there's a single thing that we guessed that was right the whole season 7.
Holy shit.
We're not very good at it.
Huh.
Like, remember my big one where I said Arya wasn't going to go to Winterfell? I was fucking wrong about that.
That's true.
I was like,
you were very wrong about that.
I was so like, yeah, she's not going to go. She's not a fucking Stark anymore. You know, she fucking went and she reined it in there too. Girl's got it going on. Killed Littlefinger. Spoiler alert. Sorry. You haven't watched it. Too bad. Why have you not listened to my podcast yet? Damn. Okay, so next scene, we are back with Elsie and Bernard. He has woken up from his brain juice injection. He's feeling better. She has explained to him while he was out, she was playing with the processor that was the core creation machine. And she's like, I don't recognize this code. Like, it's not our OS that we use for the hosts. And Bernard's like, oh, I've seen that code before. That's the code that's in Abernathy's head.
Oh yeah, he's talking about that encryption. He's like, I've seen the encryption before. Mm-hmm. That's what was for Abernathy. Okay, right.
And then Elsie also mentions that Bernard's like, I've been here before, and she's like, that makes sense that you don't remember this kind of stuff, or it's not all lining up. She goes, your memories have no addresses on them, so like there's no timestamp to his memory, so they're just kind of floating around in his head, which is kind of a cool way of putting it.
Yeah, which is why I think like you have those like weird daydream moments of him, because it's like him finally like catching one that is reference to the referring thing he's trying to like think of.
Right.
He's like, let's say if he was trying to think of a zebra, he could actually now go grab a zebra out of his mind and go, oh yeah, that's what a fucking zebra looks like.
Right. Where he is triggering all these memories. The only thing that's just triggering them isn't a timestamp. It's more of like the location and the events that took place.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know, like smelling something and you're like, oh shit, that's like grandma's cooking or whatever.
Right. And in fact, this triggers another flashback, and all we see is Bernard authorizing the printing of that control unit, the new control unit on that printer they're standing at. He tells her he's been here recently, but they weren't building a host, at least not really, he says.
Yeah, because that's where... Because have they gone down the fucking hall? No, okay.
So while he's explaining to her about the processor unit, that's when she hears the banging coming from down the hall. And she's like, she goes to explore it. And Bernard is still remembering the location. He's remembering the lab techs coming in where the white hosts are working and the lab techs, the humans, are coming in. And then they kind of cut from all that. They don't do any of the hallway stuff yet.
Oh, okay.
So now we get this is our good, at least we had some action for this episode, because there was a lot of talk and a lot of exposition for what's going on. And they answered a lot of questions this episode, but there was a little bit of action. So it's nighttime. We're at Las Mudas again. Lawrence is tied up out in the middle of the courtyard. He's getting beat on by everybody, all of Craddock's men and Craddock himself. Craddock and the Man in Black sit down and have a fantastic conversation about death. Like this whole conversation, if I didn't think I would get copyright flagged for just putting this entire conversation in this podcast, I would do it. But the whole point of it is Craddock feels like he has cheated death and that he is invincible. He can't be touched. Death is beneath him.
Beneath him, or do you think it was more like he feels like he was rewarded by death?
Well, he knows he has died and been brought back, so now he thinks because he's one of those hosts like you were talking about earlier, who's not woke all the way. Like he knows things are different, but not to the point where he is completely out of his narrative. So as an 1800s Confederado, he was killed, brought back to life, and now he thinks he's like invincible and has been leading his men that way. Like, I can't be touched. I'm cockier and can do whatever I want because I can't die.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought it was kind of more of like, I have a connection with death kind of feeling, like, like, not that he serves death, but he feels like death is always protecting him now.
Like he,
not like death, like, oh, you can't kill me anytime. Like, it was more like he feels like he has like an invincible shroud, not like, oh, I've conquered death, it's beneath me. I just kind of thought he was like, I'm about as untouchable as it's gonna get.
Agreed. I completely, yeah, that's where he goes. And during the conversation, he pours another shot of nitro in a shot glass, and he calls Lawrence's wife over, and he dances with her, very much like the Man in Black danced with her back in season 1 before he killed her. and the Man in Black is just sitting there. He just bide his time. Craddock tells Lawrence, his wife, your husband looked parched. Why don't you go, give him a drink? And he hands her the shot glass of nitro, and she starts to work her way across the courtyard. And she almost gets to Lawrence. And go ahead, what's up?
I need to know the volatility of nitro. Because
I will explain that to you in a very in a moment. I know exactly what you're going for.
Because there are just points where like some people are like insanely careful with it, and other dudes are like fucking all willy nilly about it.
Well, exactly. And I don't know the full volatility, but I'll tell you why certain things were different. At least my theory on it. So Craddock comes back to the table, and he's still taunting the Man in Black about being invincible. And the Man in Black says,
You think you know death, but you don't.
Is that so?
You didn't recognize him sitting across from you this whole time.
And breaks the bottle and stabs Craddock in the neck with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fucks him up quick.
And then I just love, like, for somebody, you have to know how much time he's... Well, part of this is weird to me because he has always played the game like he can't be hurt, the Man in Black has. So he has adapted to being killable very quickly, and it's almost not believable to me.
You think? I feel like...
Because we saw him all season 1 getting shot at, just taking hits and being like, I know I can't die. But now he all of a sudden is completely conscious and is able to shoot a guy, catch his body, use it as a shield, and then start taking out people.
Yeah, but I mean, he's also been doing this forever, so how many times, like, do you know, like, that he just went through and it's like, I'm gonna practice? Like, he could have been just going out there and using this whole thing as, like, a range, and then when he decided to fuck around, he goes, I know I can't be killed, but then, I mean, it's no different than anybody going to, like, a rifle, a shooting range or something like that to practice. I just feel like he did it with the host.
Okay, and I can see that, especially over 30 years, I could see him going in and playing it like, okay, this time I'm gonna play it like I can die. Like, let's throw it in there.
Or like he seems like the kind of guy that got so involved in the role that like he took the time to really learn how to use that gun, and like given the era he was in, like what is actually a good hiding spot or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't go just get behind a barrel, man. Fucking bullet's gonna go through it.
Oh yeah, no, I can see.
Yeah,
I can see him saying, okay, let me see how far I can get without getting tagged.
Yeah,
like let me see what I can do. And so so part of that is, so I will let myself not be pulled out of the plot by that recognition. We'll give him that. So he shoots the guy, uses him as a human shield, has this great shootout, gets a little bit nicked by somebody, but lays waste to all of Craddock's men, pretty much. All of them. Craddock is crawling out of the bar across the rain-soaked mud of the courtyard, and the Man in Black feeds him that shot of nitro.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, but when he grabbed the nitro from Lawrence's wife, like, she had her hand over it, like, covering it, like, don't let raindrops hit this. And he just fucking grabs it out of her hand, marches over there. Like, that nitro is spilling off of his gloves and shit, and then he just shoves it down his throat. That's why I was like, I want to know what the volatility is, because with that guy carrying it with the shot glass, like, if he would have dropped it, would it really done anything?
I think nitro, because I don't know this as a fact whatsoever, but whenever you see it on TV in the Westerns, and they showed it in season 1, like they transport it like a good jarring will explode it. Like a good, you drop a bottle of nitro, you're not going to be there anymore.
Okay.
So I think that's what they're going with, and I'm sure some of the folks who aren't familiar with it know that are told to just, it's that myth of like, I can't let it do anything or it's going to explode.
Yeah, pretend it's over lava or something like that. Gotcha.
Right. I don't know the whole history behind Old West style nitro. If this is nitro early nitroglycerin, or is it what nitroglycerin is made from? I don't even know anymore.
I have no idea. Like I just know nitro was used to blow shit up.
I'll do some research, and I'll tweet the link of what nitro was back in the 1800s. So he feeds it to him. He staggers away. He walks over to Lawrence, hands him one of the new rifles out of the patch, out of the the stuff they dug up, and lets Lawrence take a shot. And Major Craddock is no more. Now, same amount of nitro with the bartender and with Craddock. So why was Craddock so fiery explosive. Do you have a theory on that?
Well, other than for show, no, not really. I mean,
number one, agree. Show, yeah, much better when there's flames and shit. He'd been drinking. Probably hard shit.
Alcohol. Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
That made sense. I was like, I understand doing it for show, but you just showed me what a shot glass did with just a normal person. So I'm going to say that nitro is in a gut full of whiskey and or something else, moonshine-ish type stuff. And that's why it was so pretty.
Things that are easily flammable.
Right. And at this point, I do want to bring up that I tweeted about this on Sunday during the show, and Jonathan Tucker, the actor who plays Major Craddock, I mentioned that I laughed out. When he blew up, I laughed out loud. Like I did. I literally was like, I laughed because it was hilarious. And he responded as to what was so funny about it. And then I proceeded to kiss his ass in a tweet, and he made a laughy face. And then I asked him if he wanted to have any last words for Craddock. He didn't respond. So I was praying to get like Craddock's last words for our podcast, but I didn't get him. So, oh well. But thanks for tweeting at us, Jonathan Tucker. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Major Night, man. You were so happy.
I was like, holy shit. Yeah, that guy's, I like that actor. He's been in a couple things I've watched because I was scrolling through his stuff and I was like, oh yeah, I've seen you. Like, you probably saw him in Justified for a few episodes.
Yeah, he played in Justified because he's got a super awesome scene in Justified where he's in the bar, like it's like a American diner kind of thing, and this young guy is like wearing a hat, and he had just like lost his hat for I can't remember why, but he's like, I like your hat, and basically goes over there and in a subtle but not so subtle, like threatening way, and gets the hat. And I love it because he goes, sold American. And I was like, that is awesome, because he plays like a cowboy, and like just the way he talks and speaks in Justified, like, he was fantastic. It was great.
Do you know he was in Sleepers? He played...
now that it's like kind of registering in my head.
He played young Tommy. So Tommy was the main character outside of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, that's right.
So he was the younger version of him during the abuse era, I'm guessing. I haven't seen Sleepers in probably 20 years, so I don't know.
I'll never see it again.
Yeah. We know you won't. He's also been in... He's like in one-off. So he was in Hannibal for a couple of episodes. I remember him from that show. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, he's never... I don't recall him ever being like the main guy in anything, or even like a major secondary character. He's just kind of like a guy you bring in when you need like another bad guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's been in one episode of Criminal Minds, one episode of Law and Order: Criminal Intent, one episode of SVU. Like, he does like the bad guy of the week or whatever. So, or the victim of the week, depending on which episode it is. He's in one episode of 6 Feet Under, so he plays like that guy who's the focus of that episode, because he's a great actor. Don't get me wrong, but he's the one they can pull in and just do that. So yeah, so that kind of made my night. It was right along the lines of when we got tweeted at by who did we get tweeted at by American Horror Story?
Oh God. Sarah Paulson
tweeted at us for American Horror Story when we were talking about her cry face.
That's right.
That's long back.
I almost forgot about that, man.
That was like early on in our podcast too, and we thought we were just hot shit. We were like, oh shit, Sarah Paulson, we're gonna make it big now.
I still do, man. We're still hot shit.
We are hot shit. Sarah Paulson and Jonathan Tucker. We're gonna add to the list, baby. Okay, so we have Craddock is no more. So now we are at the 30-year ago timeline, but actually right before season 1, because we have our fishbowl with James in it. But this time there's a new face announcing he has a visitor, some young Asian kid. And this time the man who walks in is Ed Harris's William. The man in black walks in, not young William. And like, I love that James turns around, and honestly, a lot of stuff around the internet right now is how much Ed Harris and Jimmy Simpson don't look at all like each other at all. So kind of like a play on that, James's first comment to him is like,
who the fuck are you?
It's like, yes, we know they don't look alike, but just go with us, right? So at this point, they're one of their conversations in this episode made it to the point of like, I guess I take it I didn't recover, and he tells him that that yes, it's been 7 years. I think it was the last conversation. He talks about him not making it, so he knows he's a host. Like the consciousness in him knows he is not in the original body. I think that was the last conversation. So this time he jumps right to that after seeing William. He goes, "Oh, I take it I didn't make it. I didn't recover."
Yeah, I mean, he puts it together once he realizes that that's William.
Yeah.
That, like, okay, obviously some fucking time's gone by.
Right, but he does still lapse into some of the right conversation. Talking about the grapefruit juice, and then he pours in the drinks like he had before. And William at this point, actually, he's done it so many times, he almost doesn't give a shit anymore. And I think he already knew he was going to terminate this whole project before he walked in the door. But he did it anyways. I think almost to torture James one more time, truthfully. Like, I think this is all sadistic. Like, this whole meeting, this point was just him being sadistic and knowing it's never going to work. And like, I'm going to drop everything on you. And I have another theory I want to talk about during this scene, but a little bit just in a second. He asked him, William asked him, "How do you feel?" And Jim responds, "Better than you look," which I thought was a great little back and forth between the two of them. Yeah,
it was funny watching them both kind of realize like what was going on, but yet how like, what is it? Kind of like when you finally realize your kid's like better than you at a sport or something like that. Mm-hmm. You're like, well, okay, I still got to kind of be alpha dog. Like, I know you may run the company and technically you're still breathing, but I'm alive over here. Like, he's not gonna put up with anybody's shit still.
Right. And he gets mad at him early on, and he tells him, do you like living in my house? Do you like, fucking my daughter and all this other stuff? And he starts glitching like super early in the conversation.
Yeah.
Like real bad. And William explains to him that he's hit a cognitive plateau where we first thought it was the consciousness rejecting the host, but it's more of the consciousness rejecting reality. Like your consciousness can't fathom the fact that it's not in its original body type thing.
Yeah, like it's that, what would you call it? Like that weird, like,
it's an extension of him looking in the mirror the last scene.
Well, yeah, but it's like what's the word? Like foreign limb syndrome.
Oh, like
where
where like phantom limb.
Well, no, not phantom limb. Not where, like, you lost an arm and you think you have an itch, where you, like, look at your arm and you go, this is not my arm.
Oh, like this.
like this doesn't belong to my body. And so, and people actually get them amputated off, and it fixes that thing they have. So I'm saying, like, his brain's not his brain is going, this is not my body.
Right.
I'm not supposed to be in this thing.
Right. I've never heard of that, but I'm going to go look it up now. Now you've made me have to go Google something. Not phantom limb. You're talking about a worse version of the sleeper or the stranger, where you sit on your hand until it goes to sleep, then you jerk off, and it's like someone else is doing it for you.
Oh, wow. I've never even fucking heard of that in my life.
Urban Dictionary, baby. Check it out. It's old school. We also learned that this is the 149th time they've brought him back. James Delos have brought him back, which is that's the 149th host over 30, roughly 30 years. We also know that it's 35 days. So after all that time, 30 years, they've made him, he could make it 35 days without breaking down.
Yep.
But
that's insane.
Yeah, that's a lot of, that's not very good progress.
Yeah, man, you were still pushing that rock uphill.
Yeah, big time. And then they have what I can only describe in my notes as a rough man-to-man conversation. And he tells him that his daughter's dead, that she killed her. Does he say she killed herself?
I don't remember, but I
don't know if he tells her she kills himself then or some other time. But we see the flashback at the same time, right? Of him running up the stairs and fighting her in the bathtub.
No, we see that flashback when he's about to go good guy.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Oh, when he goes good guy a minute ago?
Yeah, when he's like watching Lawrence's wife dance and stuff.
That's right.
And it's almost like he's having that, like, am I going to let that man's wife die like my wife died kind of flashback.
That's right. You're right. We saw it back then. And so people are complaining that it looked like that there was blood in the water. I think someone pointed out that the bathtub was actually it was a red bathtub. But because he says here she took he said before in season 1 that she took too many pills or took the wrong pills or whatever, and then his daughter thought it was on purpose, that she killed herself on purpose, and I think he knew that inside as well. We knew that she and him had a strained relationship way back when the daughter was really young, because we saw that with the coronation, that the retirement party when she was really distant to William at that point.
Yeah.
And this really gets like I felt bad for James Delos now, because after he realizes that, that William is going to shut this whole thing down, he stands up and, still glitching, he starts yelling for all he could get out is, Logan! 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 And William's like, he's dead a long time ago. He overdosed. He couldn't handle reality as well. And it was just like it was hard to watch James like yelling for Logan. Like it hurt like watching him do that.
I didn't feel anything.
I don't feel anything.
No, like, I mean, I did it. Like, I just was like, I mean, I know it's supposed to be like a callback to like a human emotion kind of referencing thing, like with that. But I was just like, the dude's like losing his shit. Like, he's just going through code now. Like, and especially since like, cause I was almost like with William on this, I was like, how many times has he done this?
True.
Like, how many times has James like broke down and like gone through this thing that you are going, man, that was really hard to watch. Like, William's like, I've seen this 149 times.
True. I'm going to disagree to a certain extent, and I'm going to say that at that moment, the consciousness that was James Delos's is most human, because it is literally glitched back into survival mode, and it is trying to find any way to survive, because it knows that William is going to turn it off and that it's over. Like, it's all over. And that consciousness that is that, whatever of James is in there, whatever human consciousness is still working in that mind, as destroyed and glitchy as it is trying any way, shape, or form to save itself, like humans are destined to do.
Yeah, no, like I get that. Like, I was just saying during that scene, like, you were looking at it through James's eyes,
right?
And I was watching it the whole time through William's eyes. Like, I'm watching this dude break down, but I've seen it 100 times before. Like, you know me already with the show. I'm like, I swear to God, if I see that fucking can rolling one more time at the beginning, like, I'm going to lose it. So, like, part of me, and I think that's what the show tries to do is like, do you become desensitized to this stuff?
Maybe.
Even though it's like a machine. Like, William's just like, look, dude, this is what happened. Here it is, blah, blah, blah. Like, and do you become like Logan, where you are so numb to everything now,
right?
Because of it, like. So
here's what I wanted to bring up real quick that I mentioned just a second ago. What if the 3 times that we see this scene happen, we know that he visits him numerous occasions over the past 30 years to try to get this to work. What if the 3 times we see him are the 3 major deaths that he has to deal with? So the first one being Logan, way back at the beginning. Not that big of a deal because he was already a junkie for so long. He didn't even mention it. But you see, William never comes in looking like happy. He looks like he's been dealing with some shit. And every time it looks like some new shit is piled on top of him. So what if the first time we see him is shortly after Logan's death? The second time we see him, and he mentions it, that ends up glitching out James, is when James's wife dies of the stroke.
Yeah.
And then the third time when we see him as old Man in Black Ed Harris William is shortly after his wife has committed suicide. And so you have James's son, James's wife, and James's daughter all dying shortly before him coming to visit him, and those are what end up glitching him out anyways.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh yeah, I could see that.
Just as a reference point to like why the Man in Black is so, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, removed from the situation. He's just going through the steps when he goes in there.
Yeah.
Yes, we know he does it all the time, but it's almost like are you ever fucking happy, bro? Like, are you ever, you always walk in just like looking like the weight of the world is on you, and maybe these are the times that it was, and they weren't just picking random times in that timeline to show us.
That's true.
Just an idea.
I could see that.
Not my idea. I read it somewhere online. I should not give it away when I do that, but I thought it was an idea. It was a good idea. So anyways, let's see. We're back with Bernard and Elsie. They are, oh wait, before that, William leaves the room as Delos is like stumbling after him to keep yelling at him. The tech we saw talking to him asks, should we terminate? And William says, no, it may be useful to observe his degradation. And as James is losing it, in fact, in each of the scenes, the hourglass has emptied by the time the conversation is over. And when he chucks it at the end, it's also empty. So you're talking about time running out, time being over for each host. And now definitely for when he chucks it and breaks the hourglass, for the entire, that portion of the project is over.
Gotcha.
So it's all that symbolism. And so James is like losing his shit.
Symbology.
That's right. Symbology. Wait, what is it from
Boondock Saints, when he's like, I think you mean symbolism. I'm really good at nameology too.
All right, you know what? That clip's going in here. I'm gonna find that clip. I'm gonna put it in the podcast.
So, what's the symbology there?
Symbology? Now that Duffy has relinquished his King Bonehead crown, I see we have an heir to the throne. I'm sure the word you were looking for was symbolism. What is the symbolism there?
Because I know I didn't say it right.
Right. I'll make sure I put it in there after we've talked about it. But I'll have you know that if you didn't listen to last week's podcast, I did put in the music from the Raj over top of us talking about it. When I was like, I may put it in here in post, I may not. Fuck it, and like it was in there, and I got it in there, and it's great. It lines up beautifully.
Well,
because I know you didn't go listen
done.
to it.
No, I don't listen to the
you
show.
You don't listen to the show, you son of a bitch. So William has left James to just degrade mentally. That host of James just to downward spiral as far as he can go. Now we are right back. So James leaves the door, and then we're right back at the same door with Elsie and Bernard.
Yep.
And she blows it. They enter it, and everything is fucked. Things are broken all over the place. We see on the monitor, she's like, oh, somebody's in there. And we see that it's build 149. So we know it's the same build of James as before. Why you would go in there, I have no clue.
Yeah, that was my thing. I was like, why is the Asian kid in here dead?
Well, the worst part is they opened the door, but I think one of the glass walls was broken. Just go in through that opening. Why open?
Oh, was that broken? Okay, I didn't remember seeing like a glass door broke or anything. And I'm going, at what point did that kid think it was cool to like go walk in there while that host is flipping shit like that? No wonder you're dead.
Yeah, he got dragged in there in a bad way. He could have been a host though, because he wasn't. It had been okay. So when she touches the 149 screen, I paused it because I'm that guy, and it said 14 days. Where did I write that down? 14 days past suggested termination. We don't see it at that point, but later on when she goes to incinerate him, the screen says 14 days. So 14 days since suggested termination would be when the Man in Black walked out. So it was literally like a day or two before season 1 started, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That host has been dead pretty soon thereafter, I would assume, and he is not decomposing, so he could have been a host anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Still acting on his programming, but he was definitely not decomposing or like looking like a dead human, like bloated and green and gross or whatever. He was just kind of dead. So either he didn't break out for 13 days or he was a host as well. Anyways, he went in there after him or James got a hold of him, one of the two.
Yeah, either way, he's dead.
Tech's dead. And I'll give you what, I never realized that a red lighted person pedaling backwards on an exercise bike would be so creepy.
It's only because it was slow.
Oh, and slow. Correct. You have to be going slow.
Because if that would have been fast, you would have just started laughing.
Right. The slow is what
like
made it.
Why is he pedaling so fast backwards? What an idiot. Like, that's just funny. But when it's like the incorrect movement,
mm-hmm.
and it's just like rigid and kind of clunky and slow, like that's what makes it creepy. You know, like, and you see that happening, and then all of a sudden, of course, it does the like one final revolution and then stops. And it's like, now we get to see what it looks like.
Exactly, because in the very first scene, it was the real reveal that it was James. And this scene, we're like, we know it's James. What the fuck is up top? And they scroll up, and like you see his reflection, his face is all fuck up and mangled and shit. And he grabs a piece of glass,
and like putting it under his skin.
Yeah, that was good. I was like, way to go, Lisa Joy. Well done in your first directorial. Like, you did everything like beautifully for
you. Watched The Punisher, didn't you?
Yeah, right. We reviewed that season. Boy, howdy, that was a rough one. So then James gives what I titled his creepy speech, because it was.
I'm all the way down now. I can see all the way to the bottom. Would you like to see what I see? They said there were two fathers. One above, one below. They lied. That was only ever the devil. When you look up from the bottom, it was just this reflection laughing back down at you.
Like, that's ominous. That's good. That's good writing. Because it doesn't tie to anything. It's not like it's like last episode where it was coming from Shakespeare or coming from some obscure poem by a poet who's does weird shit about cushions. Like, it's nothing. It was written by the writers, but it's a nice ominous speech. And
yeah, they were like, all right, guys, write down your darkest shit for your final words for James, and the darkest one wins.
Darkest one wins. And let's not put aside Bernard's sudden hand-to-hand combat skills.
Really? I mean,
he comes at her with the glass, and Bernard jumps in there like Flash style, and not only like throat punches him, but then throws him through a window, which is where he finalizes, like where James like stop, like he's done, like he's laying up against the wall and he's done.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you like the wrestling of the glass, but again, like I just took him shoving it through the window is just everything's kind of broken down. Plus, like hosts are probably super strong; they just don't realize it. You know, or wonder if he's now freely and realized he was pushing another host and was just like, I'm just going to fucking shove the shit out of this thing because I'm a machine. Let's see what happens.
Maybe. But let's just put it this way. We have not seen Bernard fight one iota this entire 2 seasons.
Downloaded Kung Fu when he was fucking
She
sleeping
downloaded
earlier,
Kung
man.
Fu. She's like, yeah.
Yeah, right? She was like, I'm gonna have me a bodyguard.
That's some Matrix shit.
I know Kung Fu.
Yeah.
So they leave the fishbowl. We get her starting the incinerator up, and we get James giving us his devil quote.
You aim to cheat the devil. You owe him at least an offering.
As the flames engulf him.
Yes.
And as they leave the room, Elsie's like, please tell me that was not human. I didn't kill a human. And Bernard tells her, I think it was a host. I think it was both. So they're all kind of making sense. He explains to her, it thinks it's copied a developed mind, or she says they copied a developed mind over into a control unit. Bernard has another flashback, remembering him grabbing the finalized printed control marble, called a control marble.
Yeah, because that's all I could think of. I was like, man, that looks like a fancy ass marble.
Right. And the question, so another overarching question is whose conscience is that? Everybody's like, Ford's. Yeah, maybe. Or whose could it be? Could it be Arnold's? Because there's a whole thing online right now where they've examined the Bernard that woke up by the ocean doesn't have the scar from shooting himself. So they're saying it could be that, like, the Bernard we see in the present could be Arnold, like with his consciousness installed into him, why he's okay and not like jittery. But that's all speculation right now. We, of course, don't know that, but it's just another theory that's out there I wanted to bring up. At the very end, Elsie, she's like, I got to go to the Mesa to contact the mainland, and he's like, I'll go with you. And she's like, okay, but you have to promise me you're not going to lie to me more. You're never going to hurt me again. And he's like, sure, of course I won't. Like, she's like, I've always trusted code more than humans, but do you really want to trust this code right now, girl? Like, really?
Yeah, don't you realize that this code is like free evolving code? And then the thing that he literally said earlier with the whole encryption was, it's not really code. It's just like fluid, basically.
Well, the new codes, yes, the new stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
so, like, fuck trusting code.
Even before that, they've had to roll back hosts when they gain... In Season 1, they've had hosts who gain consciousness, and they have to roll them back because they've gone too conscious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, this shit's always been fucking up on them. Forever. Like, they just have random robots who gain consciousness. That's kind of a problem. It's just kind of a design flaw, apparently.
Yeah, man, they keep that shit hush-hush real quick.
True. So we get our final Bernard flashback, number 4, and we see that Bernard is, of course, Zombie Bernard is the one who turned the scary white hosts on all the human techs that were in the lab. And they all, they throw the guy against the wheel and impale him, and the guy gets his face smashed against the glass and the head smashed against the whatever. And then after they're done killing most of the techs, he orders all of the white hosts to kill themselves, like by breaking their necks, which was just kind of cool. Like, that was just awesome.
Well, except for the one, which was the one that was still left over when they came back in.
Yeah,
the room.
did he leave? Did we see that one get left on purpose? Like,
yeah, because remember, like, when they killed all the techs, then they like panned to everybody, and like they panned back to like, so you see everybody breaking their neck. Well, when they came back to Bernard, there was still that one standing behind him.
Cool.
Like it hadn't broke his neck yet.
Well, I did not even notice that. After all the rewinding I did, I didn't notice that. So that's good. So yeah, there was that one left, and then there was one tech who wasn't quite dead enough. So Bernard decides to fucking American History X, like, curb stomp that guy.
Yeah, and he was definitely using host powers man, because he just smashed that man in one stomp.
Yeah, that's gross. I'm glad they didn't show us that at all. And I love the transition from, so they focus on his face after the stomp, and the lights flicker out. And when it comes back, like the emotion has changed on his face from the Bernard doing it to the Bernard remembering doing it and like feeling bad about it, like, oh shit, what have I done type thing. And it just shows how great of an actor he is. Like, the actor does just a fantastic job. Just the amount of emotion in this show that is shown without any words is great. The stuff that young William does, the actor who does him, the stuff that Ed Harris is fantastic no matter what. But just a lot of stuff happens without any words, and it's great. It's great. Sorry. So anyways, wrapping up the episode, Lawrence's wife is kissing the man in black on the cheek, thanking him for saving everybody's life. This time, unlike episode 1 or 2 in season 1, the cousins are joining them as opposed to being called to attack the man in black. The cousins are joining them on their travels.
Yeah.
So Lawrence and his cousins are coming along with them. As they're gearing up, the girl, Lawrence's daughter, kicks into forward mode, and she tells him, if you're looking forward, you're looking in the wrong direction.
And then she also reminds him, like, one good deed doesn't make up for all the bad shit you've already done.
Absolutely. And so we have the man in black, Lawrence, and the cousins head out. As they're approaching the sunrise, a rider is coming towards them, and I love it's like old school, like Western shot of like a lone rider riding into the, with the sun behind them. And it actually has a semblance of like how the man in black looked, like the way he, looked when he would ride, like in the sunset and stuff. And we find out it's Grace that we know from earlier on. And they all stop, and she looks at him and she says,
"Hi, Dad."
Yeah. And I think they even like, because you cut to the Men in Black's face, and I think Lawrence is even there, and Lawrence looks fucking surprised. like, oh, I mean, I know you said maybe you had a daughter, like, not sure how real that statement was when I said it, but there it is, right there in front of us. Out of all the people we ran into, there's your daughter.
It's apparent she does not like you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was no love tossed in that hello.
Right. So that's episode 4, The Riddle of the Sphinx, talking about time, talking about life and death, talking about the circle of life, talking about everything under the sun. Directed by a writer by trade, Lisa Joy. I know you listened to our podcast. You did a fantastic job. You conveyed a lot of information. I love that it was an hour and 10 minutes long. They didn't cut. She was like, you're not cutting shit out. This is HBO. I can run this shit as long as I want to. I'm going to get all this information out because next episode, since we didn't get to see Maeve at all during this episode and Dolores also, but you know, we didn't see Maeve. We get to see a whole lot of Shogun World or whatever they're going to call it.
Yeah, that's right. Because I totally forgot she was kind of already over there.
Oh, well, they've moved. Well, no, they were still in the park. They were near her daughter, but we know she goes to Shogun World because they gave us like a fucking 8-minute Next on Westworld trailer with all kinds of stuff going on in Shogun World. It's going to be so great.
Nice. That's awesome.
So a whole bunch of new hosts that we never met before. That whole group doing their thing. I'm sure we'll see more Dolores because we didn't see Dolores at all this last episode either. Or this episode either. The show's moving great. I don't mind slow episodes because when this isn't a show who's based around action. Action happens, but this is not an action show whatsoever.
No, I mean this is just good storytelling. That's what it is.
It is a great story. It is a great story, and I love that I love that I can speculate. We can speculate and still have no goddamn clue what's going on.
Yeah, right. And just guess for fucking days.
Yep, we could spend an entire time just guessing, which we have, and we spend an entirely long time. And we want to thank everybody who's hung on this long. We like to talk. That's the whole point of this podcast. Who wants a podcast that's 30 minutes long? And you gotta binge a whole shit ton of podcasts. Just click on ours. You got us for 2.5 hours. Don't worry. There are podcasts I listen to, Corey. They're 30 minutes long, and I'm like, guys, like talk, guy. I'll listen all day. It's fine. Just go with it.
Yeah, I mean they probably don't ramble as much as we do.
We do ramble a lot. It's a dad thing. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like when you're like disciplining your child and then you just realize that you've gone off on some like fucking 15-minute tangent about how when you were a child or you did some other shit and it's like completely irrelevant to what is happening at that moment in time.
Hey, it is all relevant, goddammit. Our speeches are all relevant.
I sometimes I go back and I'm like, I feel like I just threw out a bunch of catchphrases. I'm not even sure if I really said anything that actually matters.
Dad discipline bingo is what you should play.
There you go.
Did I mention walking uphill? Did I mention back in my day? Did I mention your father never did? You know, did I when I was your age? Yeah, I was like, bingo, I got them all right in a line. All right, well, you can always go check us out at twodadsreview.com. Hit us up on Twitter at twodadsreview. This has been episode 4 of season 2. Thank you guys, and we'll catch you next week.
Yes, thank you very much.